And welcome back to the third race of Formula Pro by rFactor 2 and Traction.gg. We're here at the Nürburgring, but first of all, let's take you back to Silverstone 2 weeks ago and see what happened.
Jeffrey Rietveld is Bunner House on the front row of the grid for the second consecutive week. Yujovski and Siggy, your GT Pro contenders, were sitting on third and fourth. We are underway for round number 2 in the Formula Pro Series powered by Traction.gg, and there's already contact off the line. And so Yujovski had a better launch than both Jeffrey Rietveld and Bunner House. He's going to have to settle for third spot, though, as they're going through in the background. Kevin Siggy and Marco Pejic are going side by side. It is Jeffrey Rietveld leading the way at the moment, though, and this time it looks like it might hold.
Pejic here, it's now up to 4th, and Kevin sees his teammate leading, and he wants to follow immediately. I would say we really had clean racing here for lap 1, similar to what we saw in Spa, and that was Björk on the inside of Jan van der Heide. Luckily, they did not touch. Currently, no one is running the pace of Jeffrey Rietveld, and they're side by side. Liam de Waal, was it de Waal and Jan van der Heide? Yes, it was. Liam de Waal just past van der Heide once again, but look at that. There's also Fortzilla car getting involved, and everyone being side by side with Liam de Waal kind of bunching them up once again. Williams in there as well.
Adam Maguire tried making a move on Gianmarco Vidici. Vidici wasn't having anything. Liam de Waal's gone wide though, and Jan van der Heide has come through. Look at how hard they're battling in the mid-pack as we ride on boards with Peter Berliak there trying to get through. You've got Gianmarco Vidici and Adam Maguire going side by side. Maguire gaining the position on the feisty Italian behind. Pass, realistically speaking. Whereas here, maybe they'll fancy something. Vidici makes contact.
Yeah, he quickly tapped Liam de Waal there, and that dropped him down another spot, getting him right in front of Dennis Jordan now on this open-wheeler Formula car. De Waal once again on the inside of Vidici, and it seems like he might even make a way around it. Cuts back once again to the inside. Absolutely amazing maneuver here. But it wasn't enough, and now Dennis Jordan might get his shot. It's amazing to see how close he sticks to the Mercedes AMG, and that might be the run on the inside. There's a slight touch, and hopefully none of them got damaged, but Kevin Siggy muscling his way up the leaderboard back into 4th.
The likes that we've seen this plenty of times in season 1 or 2. Yujovski versus Siggy. Siggy doing exactly the same thing again, but this time being given room from Yujovski. It was just about enough. There was a brush between the two. Yujovski's going to hang on for now. Down to Brooklyn's. Yujovski in control once again for that podium spot, but Siggy's not done yet. It's got to be done around the outside of Brooklyn's. This is a move that is absolutely on. There's contact between the two, and Yujovski goes round. Pejic comes through, and Pejic back onto the podium.
At least from the perspective we had, but I still wonder. Oh, it's a touch to the front tyre of Yujovski. All right, it wasn't him losing traction.
Remember that Pinto did finish in 10th spot in GT Pro here, got reversed up onto the pole position. Unfortunately, disconnected from that race in Season 3. D'Alessandro down the inside. Now, that is a bit of a send. Let's go with that. Made contact with Nuno Pinto's. Opened the door for Danny Kish, the Hungarian, to come through. There's going to be a bit of a brush between the two of them.
I'm wondering if the 1.2 was actually just him managing the tyres, and now Jeffrey Rietveld coming into the pits in action-packed fashion, I would say.
And this is a 2-stop strategy confirmed. Bonnerhaus out of the pit lane trying to jump. Jeffrey Rietveld is not going to do so. Rietveld comes through after passing Jiri Toman, but importantly so, Bonnerhaus is right on the rear end of Jeffrey Rietveld. Doesn't have to pass Jiri Toman.
Of Toman, and not having to overtake him. He's now already attacking Jeffrey Rietveld on the inside, and that will work. 180-degree right-hander. A lot of space available there, and it's now Bonnerhaus taking down Jeffrey Rietveld.
Between Jerne Simoncic and Bonnerhaus, I say 8. It's realistically at 7, but I mean Simoncic is in control to try and take his 3rd title. Down the inside, Bonnerhaus takes 3rd spot away. Marcel Cincic's next. Here's Pejic in the middle of the pack as well, trying to get by Michi Hoyer, and makes that move stick, but Pejic way down in proceedings, 15th spot.
Yeah, he should be in a good position. He has the DRS available to him as well. Cincic on the inside, which sends Rietveld around the outside, but still enough grip with those new tyres. And he's just pulling off that move there now. He's in the better position to go into the chicane. Luckily, no touch there between the tyres.
Incredible stuff as into the pit lane, Simoncic after his teammate Michi Hoyer. There goes Risto Capit around the outside. Pajic as well, a part of this battle, and will try and pick up the pieces as well. Is there going to be a dive? Michele D'Alessandro also into the pit lane, looking to the inside the Mercedes AMG Petronas Esports driver on Team Fordzilla. No way through on the switchback though. Is going to be side by side, is going to make up that move on Nuno Pinto. That was a good effort, a well-judged attempt, and now involved in the mix is Mohamed Patel.
Patel and Jan van der Heijden. Jan van der Heijden still in 13th, and with Patel now getting risky there on the entry, slight wiggle on the car there, not enough traction. There might be a chance for Jan van der Heijden to take down both drivers in just one go. He's now on the inside of Patel. That might be enough there to even take down both as he's side by side with Nuno Pinto now. And just when I said it, Jan van der Heijden all of a sudden winning 2 positions in a great move. It happens what happens here. Gianmarco Fiducci comes in. That's Nuno Pinto already on the pits, and boom. Yep, getting rid of a front wing, getting rid of a rear wing, basically helping the mechanics.
So let's take a look at what happened to Maguire. So this is by himself, running into the rear end, just lets go. To be fair, based on how that car was driving in qualifying, I'm surprised he's lasted this long. Siggy and Pajic also into the pit lane. Tabunnerhaus going a lap longer as he did in the previous stint, although Jeffrey Rietveld I think will come out into some cleaner air this time and things might look a little bit better. Yovski's coming through and will be behind Rietveld.
And so penalty for Rietveld.
Is
yes. Speeding in the pit lane?
Yeah, it would be.
Aggressive entry into the pits probably was.
Oh, he didn't put the pit limiter on.
Yep. Oh, he speed up to 100 again. Oh.
I don't think they're going to be lasting long with the charge of Siggy. You can see DRS activated on the pair of them, but that was not even difficult. Basically come out not in the mid pack. So that's terrible from Marcel Chinchik, let's be honest. Not going to beat around the bush there. Siggy was there. Then they make contact here as they're both driving into each other for some unknown reason on the straight down into Cox. This is how he got by Danny Kish as a proper send here, and I think he's close to making a move on Michele D'Alessandro. There we go, down the inside. You can tell he's firing on all cylinders, trying to make these moves. A proper send there to get to the inside, and has just completed another one as we head back to live pictures on Michele D'Alessandro.
He knows that Toman's not really getting any closer, so if he wants, they're really sending it up the inside. I think that was a bit too hot there. Touch Toman. Oh, look at Rietveld. I mean, he took down Stefanko. He's now right behind Johnny Simoncic already and had an attack. And I think he just touched Simoncic at the back, spinning around, sending him into the wall at full throttle there.
From Chinchik, that was maybe a little bit too hard. Gave absolutely no room. Going through Cops, it's still the Varga Sim Racing driver holding firm. Oh, this is going to end in absolute tears. I am sure of that. Well, out of final corner, I think Aidan Millward put this one best. The house always wins. Bono House, final corner, back-to-back victories to open the season in Formula Pro, and he wins once again the Silverstone Grand Prix in a fantastic race for him. Mercedes on top as they depart the final corner. It's Chinchik to hang on for 4th. It's Rietveld inside the top 5 after a 2-stop strategy and a stop and go.
No big surprises. Bono-House obviously winning after a following.
So I hope you enjoyed those highlights, but let's bring you up to date and up to speed with what is happening tonight. Here for the 3rd round at the Nürburgring, a very tricky track, and this car is certainly very difficult, so the drivers are going to have a lot of fun with the car today. But for this pre-show, myself, Cameron Roger, will be taking you through all the information that you need. Alongside me is Aidan Millward, and Aidan, I think we're in for another really exciting race today.
Yeah, it's the Nürburgring. It's a tight track. It's, you can see in the B-roll, it's quite narrow. There's a lot of flowing corners. It's pretty hard to get past. There's probably only 2, maybe 3 real overtaking zones. Obviously, the first corner, which is super tight to the right. The chicane towards the end of that, we're using the tighter Grand Prix chicane as opposed to the faster endurance chicane. And it's going to be pretty interesting watching all these cars barrel into turn 1 and trying to trip over each other on the cold brakes and things like that. So expect some T1 memes and other things like that, but also at the same time some good hard racing from the best drivers in rFactor 2.
Well, certainly indeed. We saw some Turn 1 carnage last week in the GT Pro series, so hopefully as some of those drivers cross between both series, hopefully they can keep it a bit cleaner, because it is a nice hairpin bend to turn the lap, or start the lap, I should say. And it's quite an interesting circuit. I'm sure there's some nice footage of the track taking you around the lap, because it's one of those tracks where it's actually quite tight and twisty, and as you say, there's only really a couple of properly good overtaking opportunities there in turn 1, but then as we come through this arena section, you can really go side by side as well.
Yeah, turn 4, you want to get the best exit possible, because you've got a short run down towards 5 and 6, where it's sort of drop a gear, drop another gear for 6, and then if you get the best exit out of 6, then you can try and put one into the Dunlop hairpin, now called the Goodyear hairpin, and then up through the Schumacher S. You don't want to take too much off there, and then set yourself up here to the second DRS zone of the lap.
DRS is going to be very important coming up to this final chicane, and I'm sure we're going to see a couple of last lap lunges in there, but that's such a tricky final chicane before you come into the final corner where we get to the pit entry as well. And today it's going to be Burst Esports' Michi Hoyer taking us around this lap, and it's certainly one that the drivers, they're going to need to do a lot of practice to get on top of here. We've seen that it's quite a tricky car to drive, and I think that's going to continue at this track. You just see all the wheel spin there coming out to turn 2.
Yeah, setting up the toe, the camber, things like that to try and maximise the potential of acceleration as Hoyer comes out of the Mercedes arena up towards 5 and 6. So see what he does here. He keeps it in 6, drops it to 4th, just kisses the curb on the inside each time. These curves can really upset this particular type of car because it's ground effect type of downforce rather than topside aero, and then up towards the hairpin where you can use all of the camber of this banked corner, sort of come out and then back in. It's a little bit like Luffield at Silverstone, and then up towards the flat-out Schumacher S here.
Is it absolutely flat out? Yes, it is. 6th gear in this car, which is great to see before this. Really fast. You almost take it as a chicane, actually, into the left first of all, and then the right, which is so fast indeed before you come out onto this back straight. And I think, Aidan, this is probably going to be dive bomb central up into this chicane.
Yeah, you don't want to lock up too hard here because there's you sort of got the curb on the inside, but you'll see it's like raised right on the inside, and that can really upset the car. And Mitchie just kisses that little bit of the raised point of the chicane as well. And the pit lane entry is quite difficult as well because you've got to sort of go from the far outside all the way to the inside, and then you just boots it out the final corner and across the line to complete the lap. So very, very tricky track. It's a track that a lot of drivers love. Personally, it's not one of my favourites in the world, but I'll be racing here on Friday evening, so I'll just have to put up with it. As I said, I'm sure there's lots of drivers that hate particular types of tracks, but they just have to get on with it. And then there's the rest of your calendar: Indianapolis Road Course, Zandvoort, that's going to be fun, and then Monza to end things off.
Yeah, over the next 6 weeks or so is going to be an interesting point, and because the seasons are so short in these official series that we've got with GT Pro, Formula Pro, they're only 6 rounds long. So already after this race, we're going to be halfway through the calendar. And at the moment, it's Bonner House who's leading the way in the Drivers' Championship. And once we're already getting to this halfway point, we're already going to be seeing some guys maybe outside of the top 10 or so in the championship, and they already don't really have a chance of winning. So we're really starting to see the contenders. And there's a main talking point for this race. Now that we're getting towards the mid-race of the championship, it's obviously a new car. It's only been out for a couple of months now. And 397 have decided to add in a little bit of a different tyre rule. So now, drivers must use 2 different compounds during the race. Previously, you could basically do what you want, so everyone just used the soft tyres because obviously they're the fastest tyre. But now you are forced to use those, effectively, the medium tyres. The hards, as you see there, you could do a soft hard one stop. But I think, Aidan, most people are going to be trying to do just a soft medium or soft medium soft.
Yeah, soft medium soft. Soft medium is probably going to be the way to go. I think a lot of drivers will be one stopping, running that soft as long as possible, and then getting onto the sort of unfavoured medium tyre. There have been like BOP things going on with the tyre in the background. There's sort of constant development with the car throughout the season. So we'll probably see more opportunities next season to see maybe some tracks they will go, okay, soft tyre gets absolutely destroyed at, say, Silverstone. We'll go to the medium and use the hard there instead. So it's all going to be working out to be a lot more realistic in terms of tyre choice over the course of this season and into next season. And maybe at some point we'll get to see that blue wet tyre at some point. Maybe not this season, please, not this season. Next season to really spice things up, because everybody loves a bit of the wet stuff.
Indeed, and just to add a final point for those tyres as well, so the soft tyres have also had just a little bit more tyre degradation, so they'll be lasting less time, and that is going to be quite important for that strategy if you want to continue doing a one-stop, because obviously the softs are going to be lasting nowhere near really the distance that they would have got before. But let's run you through the format. It's now going to be a qualifying session where they only get 2 hot laps. So you could either do a 4-lap run and use all your laps at once, or you could go out for 2 separate hot laps. And that's very important because the pressure's on and you really need to get your lap times in and make sure that you're not ruining those opportunities.
Yeah, I've seen the screenshots of different drivers setting different times, and in practice they can just keep going and going and going and going and setting the fastest lap they can possibly can in the allotted time to sort of state their claim and go, hey, look, I'm really quick. But when you've got the pressure on, you've only got 2 attempts. Those times can be a little bit slower. Some drivers might not set a time at all if they stack it through the middle sector, or if they do track limits at the chicane or something like that. So track limits not as strict as they were at, say, Silverstone, but this place definitely bites if you mess it up, particularly if you get on those quite high inside curbs.
And this is the big talking point for the teams and the drivers. What are they fighting for? So per race, so for the race today, you'll see that we have a prize fund of $250 for the winner, and you can see that works its way all the way down to 8th place, where it goes down to $40 for the remaining finishing or classified drivers. But the main prize is really for the team's championship. So this is what we need to look out for during the race: which best pair of drivers for their team can get higher up the championship, because as you can see, it's quite a nice prize pool for that. $5,000 for the winning team. So that's really where the main prize money is going to be. And even finishing 5th in the standings will get yourself $1,000 for the team. So the teams is really so important to be getting yourself up there and getting those better results. So it's not just about having one fast driver, you need to have 2 drivers being consistently at the front.
Yeah, it's different to every other series where it's more individual based, and you can see at the top, and Lewis said it at the end of the last race, that the house always wins. Bono House at the top, 185, maximum score 370. But Kevin Siggy for Team Redline, he's within a shout if Bono messes up at some point over the next few races. But you put your money on Bono winning the entire thing if he wins this race. And just scrolling down, you've got Jakub Brzezinski right there at the bottom, having missed the second race, with Martin Stefanko stepping in. So reserve drivers coming into play, and even the reserve drivers have got to be rapid to maximise the points hauls.
And the interesting fact, if I'm not mistaken, it's been Jeffrey Reitfeld on pole position so far this season, with Bono House in 2nd place in both races. And that is a very important factor, because Bono House isn't quite putting it on that pole position, but he's still able to get it in the race. And Reitfeld having a bit of an issue, as you saw in the highlights. He had that speeding penalty and then making a collision with Simoncic as well, which has put them just a little bit down in the championship, just behind Team Redline. So it is Redline who are really sort of looking to get back on top here at the Nürburgring. And you can see some stats here. House there with 2 wins from the first 2 races, and that is going to be very important for his factor. But you see there Jeffrey Reitfeld down in 6th, having those 2 pole positions.
Yeah, you see it's all filled in as things go. You see Adam Maguire there on 1 DNF after he spun off at Silverstone. Didn't really get the setup correct there, but I think Bono would have a harder time getting past here compared to any other track, given the fact that you've only got those really 2 real overtaking zones. And with DRS as well, we've seen that it's not actually that powerful at some tracks. So we're basically really looking at this and thinking, okay, what they're going to try, and if anything, are they going to try and undercut in the pit stops like we used to see in top level open wheelers in the past?
Well, we'll have to find out indeed. And House there leading the way by 14 points, which is actually quite significant, because after the first couple of places in the race, the points basically go down by 1 point per driver. So that effectively equates to 14 positions already to Kevin Siggy, who's had those 2 third places so far. So we still don't really know what is going to happen, but for sure, Bono House, Jeffrey Reitfeld, Kevin Siggy, they're all going to be at the front, and it's really going to be a battle between those Mercedes boys and Redline, you would assume, But now that some guys have learnt the car, learnt the track, maybe we'll see someone different on top today. So we hope you enjoy the broadcast, and we will now hand you over to Rene and Lewis to take you through today's action. So enjoy the race.
Thanks, Aidan and Cameron, and welcome to the commentary booth now for the race at the Nürburgring. It's the Formula Pro Series. My name is Ronnie Butler. Alongside, I got obviously the Lewis McGlade, the Wikipedia of sim racing, I would say, which means it's not just tire components that will be about today. It will be all about stats, facts, and whatever else Lewis can come up with. Lewis, are you ready for Nürburgring?
Yeah, I've already got a couple of stats actually. Well, some for qualifying. We'll get into that a bit later on, so don't worry. I love myself some information. It's been a fantastic season so far, obviously being through it there in the championship standings, to have it so close between teams at the top, between drivers as well. I mean, Bunner House is looking pretty strong right now, but it can all fall apart very, very quickly in such a short season.
Yeah, he was definitely not really threatened, I would say, but we had seen drivers lurking in the background and waiting for Bunner House to do one mistake. Although we know from the past, at least, that doesn't really happen that often. But maybe it will happen here at the legendary Nürburgring. Obviously not the Nordschleife. I think that will be a bit crazy when we're talking about our open-wheeler V10s. But it is a fairly, let's say, simple track. Looking at the layout compared to maybe Spa, for example, which has way more changes in pace and rhythm, I would say. Do you really think that's once again something Bunner House will just go through and dominate?
It's a bit hard to tell here. I mean, overtaking around the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit is always known to be fairly difficult, and that's why having the new strategy in here with that tire combo, that's going to be the key factor here, is making sure that you nail that. We saw interesting tire strategy back in Silverstone, remember, where at Spa it was all about the one-stop. Silverstone, though, we saw two-stop strategies coming into it, and a two-stop strategy ending up being victorious. How you pick that one up this round is going to be really, really different, though, because, like I said, it's harder to overtake. Are you going to take the risk of going onto a two-stop, of being in traffic, of trying to overtake? At Silverstone, you can pass. Here, it might be a bit more difficult. I'm very, very intrigued to see, and this is where you see your champion built, by reacting to these things and always coming out on top.
Yeah, absolutely love the change in the rule set in terms of, but they now have to use 2 different tire compounds across the race, and they have to, obviously, as we heard in the pre-show, start on the compound they used in qualification. So we expect most of the front runners, obviously, to be on soft tires, as that would actually enable them to be front runners, right? But looking at Nürburgring, we said already, it's not easy to overtake. There's always a chance, obviously, to go down into turn 1, Yokohama Ez, and really dive deep there, kind of dive bomb. And then on the other side, basically opposite of the track, we have the what previously was the Dunlop corner, which is now the Goodyear corner, which might work in terms of slipstreaming. But Luis, we also learned across the previous races that we had a lot of ground forces, not that much aero though in terms of slipstream and getting more push from staying behind someone.
No, the key thing when it comes to overtaking isn't necessarily just the slipstream and the slight DRS. DRS doesn't make that much of a difference in this car. It's more so about nailing the traction off of the corners, which, by the way, is actually quite difficult on a number of corners. I actually would argue it's one of the hardest things about the Nürburgring Grand Prix. I mean, think of the final corner. You've got this long radius. It's not as if you're going through a tight hairpin. You just straighten it up and slowly plant the throttle. You've got to manage it slightly. You've got to manage the oversteer of the car, how that's going to unfold through a stint when rear traction starts to disappear through the tyres, how the weight changes and stuff. That's how you make your moves, is by nailing that when you're directly behind someone, which, by the way, is really easy for us to say. It's really, really hard to do.
We're only the ones that have to talk and hype about it. Luckily, we're not the ones that actually have to do it. I mean, we saw Aiden Millwood doing the rFactor 2 Formula Challenge Series. He did quite well not last Friday, and 2 weeks ago it was. But kudos to him. Obviously, I was around to commentate on that. Really, really cool. But tonight, we get the lineup of stacked pros, basically. The best of the best when it comes to the open wheelers here in rFactor 2. And one of those legendary names is actually on the screen right now. Erhan Nejovski from RHE Esports. While we see a Wolf's car being completely ripped apart already. No rear wing. That will definitely not help, especially with the limited numbers of laps we have, Lewis.
Yeah, that was Liam Duval, which, like you say, really, really important there in the consideration that we only get, essentially you get 6 complete laps over the session. I spoke about this a few times. You can treat that however you want. You can do an out lap for timed laps and an in lap, or you can do, which is the typical strategy, out lap, timed lap, in lap, out lap, timed lap, in lap, to tick off those 6 laps. Liam Duval has used one of those laps now, has used an out lap. So realistically, it's down to 5. How do you use 5? You can't do an out lap, time lap, in lap, out lap, time lap, in lap again. You can't do 2 time lap unless you're doing it in a consecutive stint. With tyre wear around here, I don't necessarily see that. So already on the back foot. Erhan Nejovski here in 6th place, by the way. Should I throw out stat number 1? I've not got too many, don't worry, I didn't prepare too many. But last round, when it came to pole positions, the separation was 0.06 of a second, which I'm pretty sure from the numbers that I've got is also the same margin that is the closest pole time in GT Pro, which was set in round 2 of season 1. So, a little bit of an interesting thing to throw out there. It's a small ditty, but we'll have a couple more, I'm sure.
Yeah, that was not bad at all. I mean, we know already the same. It was for GT Pro series that it is tough to get a front row spot in any of those pro series that we run on rFactor 2, right? It's a stacked grid, as I said already. Really, really good drivers, and losing part of your laps, as Liam DeWall did already, is basically costing you an entire session, and that's the level where we're at right now, especially with the rule sets that we have in the Formula Pro series. You have to be on point all the time. It's part of your strategy, basically. When do we go out, right? We saw that on the first race. Like, everyone was kind of hesitating when to do their fastest laps. And what we see the first time is now coming in with Nuno Pinto from Team Fordzilla coming around the Hyundai N corner and crosses the line, 27.8. Although that is quick on medium, I'm pretty sure he won't stay there because the driver's out with softs. Risto Kappa just took it. And then it was Dennis Jordan, who now is the quickest. But already, Lewis, we see different compounds here in the qualification.
Yeah, obviously some experimenting and trying to play with things strategically to see how they can work their way up the order, work their way into proceedings. We'll say, by the way, as we watch Erhan Nejovski across the line of 26.462, the time that was set in practice just prior to this was a 26.079 for Bunner House. Karen Sigi, Marko Pajic were also up there as well, with Jone Simoncic actually just a 10th off behind on a 26.213. So the times that we're seeing here are obviously a little bit slower. You've got to think of it almost in the sense of a Super Pole, that the laps they're doing at the moment aren't exactly on the very limit, especially not the first one. You want to get a banker lap onto the board. You want to set a 90% lap, as we see Jakub Brzezinski back behind the wheel of the Williams eSports car. Great to see him. He had a great run in the first round of the season, inside the top 10. Unfortunately, to take part in the previous one, replaced with Martin Stefanko, but P7 for Brzezinski. So we know he's got pace in the championship, and so seeing him up there in second place, nice spot for now.
Definitely. Manuel Biancolila coming across the line from Mr. GT Esports, also second place. So sending down Brzezinski by 1, although I have to remember that he is the one with the rFactor 2 logo in the tower. Valeriano, Biancolila's teammate, just coming into the Vidal chicane here at the Nürburgring GP course. And then this last corner, the end corner, is never an easy one. You either feel you had been way too slow, or you kind of touch in the gravel coming out of it, and then you had been too fast. For Valeriano, that was a solid lap, I would say, but only 8th, and we have 10 times in so far. But this is basically the driver everyone is waiting for. Bonnehaus, we see this AMG Petronas eSports team, and it seems like it's not slacking at all. No matter which track we go to, Bonnehaus definitely on point.
But when it comes to the qualifying sessions, has not had a pole position so far this season, just taking second place on both grids. Well, there's a bit of an issue in pit lane with one of the drivers. I'm seeing them all over the place, which has not gone very well. I'm not sure who it was, but clearly someone wasting away. Purple sector 1, purple sector 2. Let's see if this is going to be a low 26. That's what the aim is for. A 26.1, a 26.0 ideally. You can see it's a little bit lethargic coming through the final corner, though. Across the line, what's going to be? Of course, up on a pole position, and a 26.024 for Bonnehaus. That is an absolutely sensational lap time. Jeffrey Rietveld with all of the work to do. I'm not necessarily sure this is going to challenge for pole position. Will surely be second place, but I get the feeling it's going to be a 10th off. It's up there. It's 0.166 down, and House draws first blood.
Yeah, that crazy start into the qualification here. Both drivers, Rietveld and House, will have another shot. So I'm absolutely sure that Riedfeld's already planning how to get their lost time back, but it is an amazing first lap from Bonnehaus, and really shows that he doesn't need long to really get into the groove. And no matter if it's about consistency across an entire race or just making that one lap work, he can do both, and that is impressing me every single race. Another driver that always impresses me with his aggressive style and the racecraft he brings to the table is Risto Capit. Another RAG Esports driver, is a teammate of Nojovski, while we see Marko Pejic, the teammate of Bonnehaus, slotting in 4th. So close enough, and a bit more than half a second off his teammate, though.
Yeah, RAG are actually doing surprisingly well. We say surprisingly well in the championship. You say Risto Capit's had a couple of consistent results. They're a team that obviously elsewhere we'd expect them to contend, but their pace has been a bit all over the place. It's more so been their consistency, and we know how strong Redline and Mercedes have been. I mean, look at them up there, 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 5th. RAG with Erhan Yovski in there in 4th. Obviously that pole position last round out through pure consistency. A sensational podium, and was really battling out. Got the one-stop strategy worked to perfection. Danny Kisher on board with for Rocket Sim Sports. They've had a couple of rounds. I said their goal so far this season is just to keep out of the bottom 2 where relegation is, and so far they're doing that quite comfortably, up to 13th position. Also out on circuit, as we see Chinchik across the board for Varga Sim Racing, who are up in 3rd in the championship. Michi Hoyer currently on track, and obviously we've got Alex Siebel in 12th spot. The reason I bring those two up, 12th spot for Alex Siebel as Alan Ted comes through traffic. It was his birthday yesterday, so happy birthday to Alex Siebel. Michi Hoyer, though, it's his birthday today, and he said he was a little bit disappointed to come into a round where he doesn't think he can necessarily contend for the victory on the birthday, but nevertheless is here to race regardless.
Although, wasn't he winning in the Challenge Series back then at the Nürburgring GP, at least in GT cars?
In the first sprint race, because he won at Silverstone in the feature race, and then the sprint race, he did win back-to-back race victories, race 2 and 3 of the season. Yeah,
there we go. So definitely he likes the track. That's a good start. And you said already, it's looking good for Mercedes and Team Redline as always. But we should also highlight Erhan Yovski, who's currently on screen, because he is sitting in 3rd in terms of the championship. And with this only being a 6-round championship, it's a good position already, making sure to maybe get a podium spot or even the big money as a champion. Because although Bonnehaus is currently further up ahead, it's only it's only 15 points actually between him and Nurburgring. We know points are very, very close in the Formula Pro Series in terms of how to get them in per position, but it's still possible for Nurburgring to at least look at the trophy and maybe even grab it. So the Nürburgring could be a very, very important race for him in case he can keep up and maybe even have a shot here and there.
Well, final couple of laps coming in for some of these drivers. Yovsky across the line, it'll be his last lap. What's it going to be? It is a slight improvement to 3.73, just enough to pull him a little bit clear of Dennis Jordan. Alex Siebel, I believe, will be completing his final lap. Here's the birthday boy, looking good in that middle sector. Michi Hoyer going to work his way up inside the top 10, into that 10th spot, just behind Alex Siebel as Bianca Lilla up there. I don't think Siebel's final lap time was an improvement, so way down the order of 9th. Dennis Jordan did a good job to get up inside the top 5, at least for now, as we ride on board with Mohamed Patel. Not great in the first sector, it must be said. Had a decent result in round 1 of the championship, but here less so. Let's take a look, because we'll see where he runs to. It was 5th in round 1. It's 15th in round 2, and I get the feeling that it's not going to be a particularly strong lap time for BS competition this time. Alan Terzic returning, replacing Michele D'Alessandro. Mohamed Patel across the line to 13th. To be fair, it's better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, 13th is not bad, definitely. Looking at the grid that we have here, although you're right, BS competition is struggling a bit lately in the Formula Pro Series, which I would probably also name a very setup-heavy competition in general. You really need to be dialed in on those cars, and it seems like there's certain teams that currently do it better than the rest, besides obviously the different skill levels of the driver, although they're all very, very close to each other. But Michi Hoyer has his set 10th position. I think he can be happy about that for now, with the last 4 minutes on the clock before we finish the qualification session and head over into the first race, into the only race actually, not into the first one. But the only one, Bonnehaus, once again on an out lap. Do you think he gets the 125 done? That would be that would be a clear signal, I would say.
If he gets to 25, I get the feeling that this is absolutely sorted. By the way, Kevin Siggy's just exited pit lane to go out to start his final lap. A few drivers yet to actually come and complete a lap time on the board as we see Bonnehaus start his lap. We'll keep an eye on it. Jan Grankvist for Wolves GR Sports replacing Adam Maguire, and that will hold for the season, so making a debut. Done a couple of laps, but no lap time to his name. Liam Deval, again, is actually out of the session, is sorted now. No lap time. So the Wolves GR Sports, who started out the season fantastically, they are way down the order. Casper Stoltz is not even going to make an attempt in this qualifying session. Also rolling out of pit lane now, Jeffrey Rietveld. So we are seeing the main challengers. It's up in sector 1 for Bonnehaus. This is looking quite good. Maybe needs to react straight away before Rietveld can do anything. You're right. If he gets into the 25s, surely this is done.
Yeah, it would send a clear signal, but we also know that Rietveld is not a driver that's easily been scared off, and if he gets another shot done and gets another lap in, then he might have a chance to even be on pole. These two haven't they not sharing the first row on every single race so far?
Yeah, Rietveld ahead of House in both of the previous ones, separated by a 10th in round 1, separated by 6,000ths in race 2. What's going to be separated this time? Losing a little bit of time in sector 2. We ride on board with Bonnehaus. Final corner to traverse. A little bit wide, looked a little bit slow. Bit of a snap as well. Looked slow on the previous lap, so we'll never see what the improvement will be. Across the line, it isn't so. A 26.176, which, by the way, would still be good enough just about, but realistically, you'd want a little bit more from that, surely.
Yeah, the first sector was looking good, but then middle sector did not work out at all. Johnny Simoncic might be a bit aggressive over the curbs though on the chicane. Middle chicane when he came in, 126.5, not bad at all, but good enough to really dive into the top 5. Manuel Biancolila, he will be happy with 9th, I would say. Martin Stefanko, teammate of Jakub Brzezinski, only in 15th. And John Laser Esports Academy, it's one of those teams that we always expect way more. It's GT Pro, Formula Pro, but lately they really have a tough life when it comes to these series.
well, I remember with Jean Lacey Esports Academy that they were the champions in season 2 of GT Challenge a little while ago. Obviously, with Jordi Zveers taking the victory in that championship in a Ferrari, and unfortunately for them, it's just not really come to it. Took a race victory in the first round at Imola. That year as when he jumped up into GT Pro, which was obviously a fantastic effort. Siggy then improving a decent amount as well, quite close, not so great out of the Vidal chicane. Those seem to struggle a little bit for traction, but holds it nicely to the white line. Big snaps towards the line. What's it going to be? Is there an improvement? Is it second place? It is not. These cars are looking very difficult to manage, so it all goes to Jeffrey Rietveld, who is way down in Sector 1 rather, which kind of makes me think that he's locked in for second place.
Yeah, I think there will be no improvement made by him, and we saw Kevin Siggy being really aggressive. That car was sideways most of the time, basically coming out of those corners, and that was just not enough. He was missing that traction to really get it fired off the exit, and especially it happened a lot after the apex. So after the initial entry was already done, the car was settled, he was just a bit too heavy on the accelerator, I would say. Although, look at that. That was Rietveld with a purple sector in the middle one. So there might be a chance for him to improve as he comes across the line, 126.2. And that still is just second place. And as you said, it's also slower than what Bonner House did on the lap that didn't really went that well for him. So I would say the Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports driver definitely deserves the pole position here. Obviously, Jan Granqvist, as he said, the reserve driver and replacement for Maguire for the rest of the season. Also for 19th now.
Yeah, ahead of Gianmarco Fiducci, Valeriano Zveers, Nuno Pinto and Terzic, all setting times. Disaster in that session for Varga Sim Racing. They are third in the Teams Championship. They are 13th and 18th on the grid. Disaster. But that's how it goes. And when it comes to a track like this, Rene, you have a bad qualifying like that. How do you just, dust it off, come into the race and think, I can still do it. I've got strategy on my side.
And there's still turn 1.
And there is still turn 1.
I mean, turn 1, let's be real here. It's not like Monza turn 1, where normally everyone dies, but it is one of those corners that can, in the first lap, make a huge difference, because it is possible to run all the way on the inside, right? But there's the dip that you need to be aware of. It can damage your car, it can punch your rear round, and then there's still the opportunity to go all the way around the outside, which sometimes is an impressively fast line, depending on what everyone else is doing and where they're bunching up. So sometimes I think it's down to pure instinct and a bit of luck.
Not that this is a stat that's actually, this doesn't count as an actual stat, so let's not dive too deep into it. But race winners this season, pole position's never been translated, because race winner of the season's always come from position number 2. That's because both times it's been Bonner House starting from second spot. So, read into that what you will. It's not really a stat that's necessarily worth going into in a deep fashion.
It will be. It
could be.
Rietveld wins today.
Yeah, exactly. And this thing, though, is that maybe Rietveld's thinking, okay, I've tried starting from pole position a couple of times. Starting from second, this isn't so bad. Pressure's off. Let me go on the attack. And with the standing start on that very, very long run down to turn 1, nailing the start here is going to be critical. Putting all of that power down, it's going to be critical. It's going to be hard work.
Yeah, absolutely love it. And I still love the thrill of the standing start that we get, right? We never know, do they get off the line as they want. It's a very small and thin line between the perfect start and bogging the car and nearly getting crashed into from all the drivers right behind. So I think, I was really missing this in racing. I was how to say that, having enough basically of rolling starts. I like standing starts. Bring back standing starts. Make standing starts great again.
Yeah,
in GT racing.
Love standing starts. I mean, the thing is with standing starts, I've always found this, is that you'll have like 2 different ways. I've always said this with starts on the grid. No matter what car you're in, there's always normally 2 ways to start the car. And by that I mean you've got a regular way, which is not very risky. You release the clutch, and you know that every single time you do it, you're gonna get an all right start. You're gonna get a fine start. And you might not lose too much, you might not gain too much. It's just going to be a nice comfortable one down into turn 1, which, to be fair, in these kind of cars is what I'd take. But then you have the epic start, and the thing is as you were saying there, the epic start, the difference between, oh, that was great, to that's an absolute disaster, is millimeters on the pedal input. It's such a tight launch, and in these kind of cars it's measured up doubly so, because if you can get that power down with no wheel spin and not bogging down, your start will be absolutely immense, and the amount of practice they do on that side will be incredible.
Yeah, it's really an art to itself, I would say, in terms of getting off the line quickly. And if we look back at the previous races, Bonnehaus always had a very good start. It was never Rietveld being in control for very long, I would say. Sometimes he made it through turn 1. After the second race, he actually managed to stay ahead of Bonnehaus for the first sector. But yeah, being in the way of number 1 Bonnehaus here, Mercedes AMG Petronas Esports, is not easy currently. And Team Redline will try to find a way to finally get ahead and also take the lead in the Team Championship. As we know, Team Championship is what really counts here, right? Currently, Bonnehaus would be leading in the Drivers' Championship, and his team is also leading in the team standings, but Redline is only 4 points behind, which means Siggy and Rietveld right now, second and third, look a lot better than Bonnehaus and Pajic, who's only, I think, in 6th, because there's Gajowski in between them.
Yeah, Pajic is down in 5th spot, just ahead of Dennis Jordan from the qualifying results. We'll get to the race start and the hour-long race in a few moments' time, and they're all just getting into one. We're getting used to a big old heavy car. You're absolutely right. The championship, though, I mean, it's maybe kind of closer than it should be, and catch my drift here. We've obviously had the 2 rounds of racing. We've seen Bonnehaus win both of them. We've seen Siggy be third in both of them, obviously those driving for Mercedes AMG and Team Redline respectively. But then it's about their teammates. Now, Jeffrey Rietveld, first round, obviously pole position, got up into second, and it was a Redline leading the championship, departing the first round of the season. Last round, started from pole again, had quite a few issues coming through when they took a 2-stop strategy, dropped them back into the order, and it was a bit of a delay, then sped in pit lane for good measure, and then an incident and a penalty as well post-race drops him way down the order. And what that means is that in the team standings, because of that and the switching up that we've seen, the team standing is separated by 4 points between the top 2, separated between 8 points between the top 3. It's so close when you consider that's after 2 rounds, 2 drivers of intense racing.
Yeah, I mean, Jeffrey Rietveld basically took all the bad luck available on the previous race in Silverstone. Hopefully that kind of spares him now at the Nürburgring, because it was really hard to watch that one. He had a great race, good pace, obviously not up to Bonnehaus, but still ending up with all these penalties was never on the table for Redline before, and they will be furious that they're down by 4 points now, and they will definitely try to reverse that here at the Nürburgring GP. And I think, looking at the performance of Kevin Siggy and Jeffrey Rietveld, it's definitely doable, and maybe even a win, maybe a second position rather than leading the field into turn 1 and then proving your statistics of always second place winning the race.
How important will it be to win here? Round 3, it's a short season, isn't it? They've got to get on top. It is.
We're in round 3 out of 6. So if they take it now, looking at the other races that are coming and Pajic kind of struggling, I think there's a chance.
Well, we'll have to wait and see. The starting grid will be popping up here. Bonnehaus on pole position for the first time this season, and Jeffrey Rietveld has to settle for second. Kevin Siggy and Erhan Jofsky on the second row of the grid, ready to pounce and grab some podium positions once again. Marko Pajic, just 5th position, with Dennis Jordan up in 6th. I'm sure he'll be happy with that. Jone Simoncic and birthday boy Michi Hoyer himself will start 7th and 8th for an all-burst esports 4th row on the grid. Jakub Brzezinski 9th on his return to the championship, replacing Peter Berliak with Manuel Biancalilla, Alex Siebel and Risto Capit. A bit further down the order than he'd want for RHG Sports, but I'm sure a kind of driver that likes to rise up the order. Yuri Toman, disaster in qualifying for Varga, 13th spot. Jan van der Heijden in 14th, with Mohamed Patel and Martin Stefanko in 15th and 16th spots. Danny Kish for Rocket Sim Sports ahead of Marcel Chinchik. Again, that disaster continuing for Varga, way down the order. Jan Grankvist, though, up in 19th position on debut for Wolves. Ahead of him, Gianmarco Fiducci. Valeriano, Jordi Zviers, 21st and 22nd, with Nuno Pinto and Alan Terzic on his return for BS competition after Michele D'Alessandro jumped in previous round. He's out in Italy, I think on holiday at the moment. Leon Duval and Casper Stolzer, 25th and 26th. no times on the board. Leander having a disaster and a mare in that qualifying session. Plenty of incidents. And Kasper Stolzer not even getting out. Didn't even fancy turning a lap in that session. Just going to try and cruise around. But our focus will go up to the front row. Our focus will go up to that run down into turn 1. This is going to be a thrilling fight, surely.
It definitely is. It's a good track for that. You said it is a bit harder to overtake, but it's also a track that normally keeps people really, really close, and can't wait to kick that one off as we're in the parade lap led by Bono House, the current championship leader, the current championship leading team, but challenged by the two Reds right behind. It kind of reminds me of a certain real life championship when we said only fifth for Payage. Right? It kind of feels similar to what we normally hear on a TV broadcast, and then just surprising it's 2 red cars in second and third, but maybe the good old times. Who knows? Will it be Bonnehaus leading after lap number 1, or could it be Jeffrey Riedfeld finally not starting from position 1, instead starting right next to Bonnehaus? Is that maybe lucky charms here?
Well, this is kind of it. We're seeing the difference of strategy this round. The fact that they have to run, reminder for anyone just jumping in, they have to run 2 compounds this round. You've got soft, mediums, hards to pick from. You have to run 2 of them through the race. We're kind of expecting a soft medium, maybe a soft medium soft or something like that, but who knows? Got a couple of drivers down the order, the likes of Jan Grankvist, as well as I think Nuno Pinto, Leon Deval, Kasper Stolzer, all starting on the medium compound tyre. Everyone else electing to start on the softs. We'll prepare ourselves for another fantastic hour of racing. 26 drivers onto the grid here at the Nürburgring, and once again we are about ready to go. House on pole position, Rietveld alongside this time. rFactor 2 Formula Pro Series powered by Traction.gg is underway, and the best launch I think comes from Hanyovski. It was a terrible start from Kevin Siggy as Bonnehaus is going to lead clearly down into turn 1 as they'll all go 3 wide. Jone Simic diving in there, we're riding on board with Pajic, who's been dived and dropped down the order even behind Michi Hoyer. Oh, that's not a good start for Mercedes AMG, at least for one of their cars. House, though, leading the way.
Yeah, it's not Hoyer, it's actually Simic with a great start for Burst Sim Racing, Burst Esports, by the way, as they made up in front of everyone else in the tower. Look at that, Simic, Dennis Jordan, I think he dropped out. That was not really a great start, but it was so close between Erniowski and Kevin Siggy into turn 1 and 2. And now they spread at least a bit. Well, we got Risto Capit next to, that should be Jakub Brzezinski, if I'm not mistaken. In front of the Varga Sim Racing army that's right behind and waiting. So it's Brzezinski. We're on board with Risto Capit. We see Bianco Lila and Michi Hoyer in the foreground. Look at how close he gets on the braking, but so far, besides the what we saw with Dennis Jordan, looks like a very, very clean start into lap 1 here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that Gianmarco Verducci also had an issue down into Goodyear. Giordano Valeriano's also had issues, and Dennis Jordan dropped down after a fantastic qualifying session, being well within the decent points-paying positions, dropped down to the very back of the grid. Will now be on an absolute charge to return to the front on home soil. Completing lap 1, though, Bonnehaus, Jeffrey Rietveld, Kevin Siggy, Jovski, Simincic, your top 5. Pajic recovering a little bit after a not great qualifying session. Not a great start to the race either. He was under attack from the likes of Hoyer and Bianca Lilla, but at the moment Pajic, as I say, returning a little bit our focus on Risto Capit, who's now, like you say, inside the top 10. Got pressure on the rear end from the 2 Varga Sim Racing drivers who have made a decent amount of progress, must be said. Said they're qualifying 13th and 18th. They're now up to 11th and 12th, picking up the pieces of everyone else over that first lap, which is critical. Out to over a second, though, on the halfway through the second lap of the race. Bonnehaus, he's checking out.
Yeah, he's already underway and leaving everyone else in the dust. And what's interesting for Riedfeld and Siggy is definitely that Jovski and Simic are now between them and Pajic. It's really helping the team standings for Redline, although Bonnehaus is running away. And if Riedfeld wants to stay within your facts of second place always wins, then definitely has to get a bit closer. It's roughly a second. And we saw Bonnehaus doing that, I think, in Silverstone, where he kind of played around with the gap between him and Riedfeld very early on to save those tires.
watch the start of not only Erhan Yovski, of course we're on board with Simoncic. Erhan Yovski comes through there, a bad start from Siggy, not a great start from Pajic as well, so we dive down the inside on board, but we're 3 wide at this point. Car on the right hand side as diving through, there is Dennis Jordan, but what happened to Dennis Jordan into the AMG Arena section? It's so tight through here, back with Valeriano, who also had issues over the first lap of the race. A bit of a dive there from Nuno Pinto to the inside, might have been Gianmarco Viducci rather, as they're all running side by side and dicing their way through. I do get the vibe that we're going to see a bit of contact here, and that's what happened to Valeriano. A little bit of contact as well. That might have been Kasper Stolzer coming through to complete the spin for Valeriano, but it's kind of how it goes through that AMG Arena section. It's so dicey. What happened to Jordan? Was it all by himself? Was it a solo issue? It was just coming out of this section. Was it Hoyer into the rear end? Kind of feel it's solo.
Yep, that was definitely on Dennis Jordan. Driver's error here coming out of the Mercedes AMG Arena and then throwing away the car, dropping down the order. Very unfortunate, and I would say also rare mistake done by Dennis Jordan. I normally wouldn't expect him to do that, but happened here. Now he has to pay the price on board with Manuel Biancolina right in front of Brzezinski, and then the car that we're now looking at is Michi Hoyer. As he said already, he's the driver and the birthday child, kinda, today. And he would love to add to his birthday a few points here in the Formula Pro Series, especially a top 8 result. But Pajic up front, that will be a bit harder to get. And then Biancolina, I would say Hoyer versus Biancolina. I will probably put my money on Michi Hoyer right now because he is a great driver. Cursed it immediately as we get DRS opened for Biancolina, who takes down Michi Hoyer into turn 1.
That was a smart call though for Hoyer. I mean, excellent from you as well to just instantly curse him. But no, he's playing the long game here. Is Michi Hoyer came into it kind of expecting. I was having a little chat with him earlier, expecting to be in the top half of the grid. The top half of the grid would be a good result, and so comfortably within that at the moment in 8th spot, well within the top 10. So running really, really well. So I think that's more of a strategic call to allow Biancolina through. Maybe going a little bit more aggressive on tyres is the Italian. The gap, by the way, from the race lead went from a second. I said before it was a second. It came down to 3/10 running into the Vidal chicane as the Seaballs charging. But Dennis Jordan said before, he's the kind of driver that would charge. Not normally make a mistake. Reminder that he was a winner here in GT Pro last season. Obviously going for the championship against Rocket Sim Sports Jan van der Heide. Ended up that championship 2 points down on his compatriot. But a race winner at this circuit, you're absolutely right. It's so rare to see these mistakes, but that just shows how difficult these cars are to drive. I mean, look at qualifying with how they were wrestling them around. That it's not as if you just plug and play, turn it in, slam the throttle down and hope for the best.
Definitely not, and we see that here in Jeffrey Breedfeld as well on previous corners. Always when he hits the curves, the car gets a bit unstable, wiggling in the rear, and they have to keep it under control and really use all the traction available. So far they did that very well, but it will get tiresome across the entire race, and with the tires giving up as well, it's not getting any easier. Alex Siebel now in 13th, and behind that's Jan van der Heide, the ex-GT Pro Series champion, or he should still be, if I'm not mistaken.
Current and reigning.
Yeah, there's no new champion yet in the GT Pro Series. He won Season 4, and we're currently in Season 5 of that championship. And he's also doing very well here in the open wheelers. Absolutely love that. A driver that can handle both GT and Formula Racing. I mean, same for Erniowski, I would say, who had 2 championships in the GT Pro Series and now only sitting in 3rd overall in terms of points in the Formula Pro Series. But it will be interesting to see if everyone now kind of waits to first spot what strategy each other is on before they make a move and really go hard into the fights.
Well, there's a competition between Formula Pro and GT Pro. We're going to start a little bit of a rivalry here. Why not, between the two series? Nice to see we had a nice clean launch here. They had some issues on the start of Season 4 in GT Pro on that run down to T1 at Monza. That said, we do the awkward task of ending our season running down to the Rettifilio. So I'm sure we're going to see some drama at that point in the season, especially if everything stays as close as it is. At the moment, though, when it comes to the driver's side of things, House is checking out in championship contention, leading yet another race. But it's not so easy right now. He's got the 2 red line contingent of Rietveld and Siggy behind. Jovski's just sort of hanging on in the mix. They're building up quite a decent gap to Simoncic, who's under a fair amount of pressure from Marko Pajic running through the Mercedes AMG. I wonder if having you're driving for a team, you've got corners, you've got an entire section of the racetrack named after your team. That'll give you a little bit more gusto, surely.
A little bit more pressure, depends on, right? By the way, Ed Miller just pointed out that's obviously season 4. He must know because he's commentating on that, although I should know as well because I commentated on the previous 3 seasons. But yeah, it is season 4 that's running right now.
I wasn't going to correct you.
And Jan van der Heijden obviously won season 3 for Rocket Sim Sport. But that's just a small number. I think everyone survived that mistake. Martin Stefanko and Daniel Kish. Currently, Daniel a bit further down, half a second. As he can use DRS to close up to the Williams Esports driver. And we saw a few teams changing drivers, right? We had Adam Maguire now being replaced for the rest of the season. We had Williams Esports using all 3 drivers already during the season. Yeah. We didn't saw that from the rest of the field, though. Kind of only those 2 or 3 teams that switched back and forth.
Of course, BS competition, they're back to the original line. So you're absolutely right. Like, all of the top teams, they're holding firm with their top drivers. Of course, they would be. BS competition switching out Alan Terzic for Michele D'Alessandro. Love you, Alan. Good move, though. D'Alessandro did fantastically well last round. And Mohamed Patel's struggled the last couple. Alan Terzic's approach to the series is slightly more casual than I think most of the field. He's just here for a bit of entertainment and a bit of fun. I'm sure Michele D'Alessandro would love to jump back in and maybe give it another crack at the whip. We'll have to wait and see, though, as the season progresses. After this race, though, we are past the halfway point of the season already. It shows how fast these 6-round seasons go, and it's why they're so fantastic in their high pressure. It's, for me, maybe it's a little too much of a short season, but I think it's perfect in the sense that once you reach round 6, you're like, I need some more of that. I need some more.
Normally there is more. That's not really a problem. There's always a flowing season, and currently, let's be honest here, with being able to watch the GT Pro Series on Monday, then on Friday you can watch GT Challenge, then next Monday you can see Formula Pro, then on Friday see Formula Challenge, and there's also the BMW M2 Sim Cup, which is obviously the supporter series to the GT Pro Series. I would say there's plenty of action for everyone to watch and to enjoy and dive in terms of drivers, storylines, and drama. And I would say across the years now, we can actually say it's not the first year anymore. We created enough of storyline and drama with these Pro Series. And I can't wait to see what's happening with the rest of the season here in the Formula Pro. In terms of what's happening on the track, currently it is fairly calm, I would say, for our usual starts. But Silverstone was similar before we had the first pit stops, and all of a sudden hell broke loose.
Yeah, and again, the reminder that the tyre compounds this round and for the rest of the season, they must switch tyre compounds at some point throughout this race. They must run more than one type of tyre compound, which, like you say, is absolutely fantastic. Love seeing that. Love seeing the strategy developments. It's not as plug and play. The last couple of rounds, whilst I've really enjoyed the racing, don't get me wrong, and last round was, like you say, it was a little bit of a slow burn, and once we hit that first pit stop, it absolutely lit up. Whereas now we've got this tyre strategy, it's a lot more to think about, it's a lot more to balance. The drivers could create a lot more drama for them. I don't think it's as clear cut on strategy, although, let's be honest, last round wasn't clear cut. We were more assuming it was going to be one stops from everyone, and then Redline and Mercedes AMG Petronas Esports were like, I fancy a 2-stop strategy, and we'll still try and take that victory and certainly work to their fullest effect. At the moment, though, like you say, it's a little bit calm. House leading from Jeffrey Rietveld, the top 2 that we've seen realistically on pace the last couple of rounds. And Siggy's just sort of sat there in a spot that I think he finds quite comfortable at the moment. 3rd spot. He's finished 3rd twice this season, the opening 2 rounds. Might be aiming for a 3rd, might be aiming for another one to go a little bit better.
He could just protect Jeffrey Rietveld for now, I would say. And another one who's protecting Team Redline Wish to stay on, or to get on top, back to the top of the team standings, is Journey Simoncic, because he still has Pajic behind. So the teammate of Bono Howes, and he's doing a great job there, ensuring that Mercedes AMG Petronas Esports is not getting the full amount of points they could. And now Chad pointed it out already regarding Burst. The Burst boys actually having a really good start into this race, and so they did. I mean, Michi Hoyer 8th, that's looking good, but Simoncic into the top 5. that is a real cracker, I would say. And he's currently showcasing that it's not down to just being lucky and a bit more risky in the first lap. He can hold on to it and go the pace of the top 5, which is even more impressive.
I mean, Jonas Simic's results this season have been 12th and 19th. Obviously not all we'd expect of a driver of that caliber. Michi Hoy's 15th and 11th. Burst yet to get a top 10 in the championship thus far, and looks like they're going to be trying to change their fortunes today. We're about 15 minutes through the race. This battle's been pretty intense. There was almost a switch of position as Jiri Toman was trying to get by Risto Capit, but Capit had the response and was able to get through. But look at the train that follows. This is for the final position inside the top 10. You've got Capit, Toman, Chinchik, Alex Siebel, Jan van der Heijden, Mohamed Patel, Martin Stefanko, Danny Kish on the rear end of the train. Liam de Waal just about able to keep in tow at the back of it, but that leaves you with 9 cars all battling out over 10th place, unable to do anything. Look at how close Jiri Toman is getting down into T1, running through the Mercedes AMG Arena section. And as you get into this bit, there's just no way to stay that close. Obviously, we don't have the most insane amount of dirty air. They're more ground effect based cars. They are able to sit behind someone, but still making that pass is very, very difficult. Jan van der Heijden is quite close to Siebel, but running down the hill, no move yet.
Yeah, it's all very flowing and not heartbreaking zones that you could use to your car alongside, maybe into the Goodyear corner that we're approaching right now, but definitely not for Patel, as he's a bit further behind here of Jan van der Heijden and Alex Siebel. Still, they have their own fighting group, kinda, and as I said, Toman is looking at Risto Capit. Risto Capit currently not up to the pace of Jakub Brzezinski of Williams Esports, who got away from him just a tiny bit per lap, but enough already to feel safe in his position.
And do you know what this is telling me? I want a one-stop strategy. I do not want to come in for a 2-stop around here. It looks very, very difficult. You're absolutely right. There's no real hard braking zones with the exception of turn 1 and the Vidal chicane. The amount they have to push to get around it, to try and force a gap to open the door is insane. And realistically speaking, I wouldn't want to be on a 2-stop strategy. You can see here with the different compounds they use, maybe a soft, medium, soft, go fast at the end of the race, but still make the most of the medium tyres. You just don't want to come out in this mid-pack. You don't want to be a part of this train if you can avoid it. And realistically speaking, considering that the likes of House and Rietveld got themselves into a little bit of trouble earlier on at Silverstone and got involved in the mix there by pitting early, by coming through the pack, they want to avoid that.
Yeah, definitely. You want to make sure that you have clean air when coming out, or at least come to your pit stop if you run into a group. But in this group, no one can really run away, that's for sure. I mean, we're only a few minutes into this race. Patel can be quite happy at least being inside the top 15 and still having a Williams Esports driver in the name of Stefanko right behind. While we're looking back of Risto Capit onto the 2 Varga sim racing cars. And we know that, especially Chinchik, he can pull some great moves if he gets closer right now, but it looks like it stays static the last 2 laps at least. Oh, that was Kevin Siggy feeling a bit risky coming out of the Hyundai N corner, losing the rear of his Team Redline Formula car. Also no changes between those, and it seems like Bonnerhaus is now finally upping the pressure on Rietveld a tiny bit as the gap went from 1 second to 1.5, 1.7.
Yeah, he's checking out right now. This could be indicative of a potential pit stop incoming, but more so the expectations, especially considering the pace that they're all running now. They're all running about 8/10 off of their personal best laps in the race, and all things leading on their times at present, running in the 29s at the moment. That this is looking like, for a lot of these drivers, this is going to be a one-stop strategy from quite a few of them. They're just going to leave it out, of course, running on the mediums in the second half of the race, and that's where you're going to make the difference at that point, is running on tyres which we're quite unfamiliar with in racing scenarios, considering that we've not run it yet. We've just been running softs all the way through the season thus far. Dennis Jordan, who spun around on the opening part of the race, has not been able to make much more progress from that. Onto the rear end of Jordi's Viers, who's messaged me earlier and was saying that still a little way off, but learning the car bit by bit. They're feeling a little bit more comfortable. Not feeling great in the car, obviously, considering their pace, but when this is a huge learning curve for everyone, just learning it bit by bit and moving forward. Surely Redline have to switch here. Siggy is looking quite a bit faster than Rietveld. Rietveld's losing touch of Bonnerhaus right now.
Yeah, it's really the question now. Do they want to send Kevin Siggy just to see if they can hunt down Bonnerhaus, especially with the with the stops coming up at some point, or do you stay? Let Rietveld stay ahead because you want to make sure that you've got more points. Talking about staying ahead, that's what Risto Capet wants to do, and Juri Tolman coming closer and closer every single lap. He should be in striking distance by now, and with him is his teammate Marcel Czincik, which means once Risto Capet has to open the door because Juri Tolman is on the inside, there might be a chance for Czincik to also slip through. So Risto Capet knows exactly that he can't afford a big fight here with Juri Tolman, as he probably will lose 2 positions in the end.
It's like I say, it's so difficult to manage these kind of battles. Right now, I guarantee what Risto Capet's doing. He's keeping an eye on the number, but he's doing his own thing. He has no interest in keeping his eye on the mirror. At this point, throughout the opening 20 minutes of the race, he hasn't had to defend realistically once. Not properly. It was a little bit closer a few laps ago. But he's just sticking to the racing line and avoiding mistakes, because at that point, Juri Tolman can't do anything about him. This is the slipstream and the DRS that we have right now, and up towards Vidal, it's just not enough to punch it through. It's more the tyre wear that's you've got to take the most of, and Risto Capet's just driving ice cool right now, keeping well in control of his tyres, looking to score some decent points. Dennis Jordan still not able to get by the Flying Dutchman of Jordi's Veers for Jean Lacey Esports Academy, but realistically speaking, as we go back up to Juri Tolman, some of these teams, look at the gap that's going out for the racing. Some of these teams are looking after their tyres better than others. House seems to have looked after them really, really well, in the consideration that he's pulled out a second in the previous couple of laps.
He's doing super well right now. He's really dialed in with the car. He's getting all the performance out of it that he needs. Kevin Siggy, what's that? Is that a very colourful jersey in the background, I wonder, on that wall? He's currently sitting in third behind his teammate Rietveld, and not close enough yet. We talked about that. Is he maybe quicker than Jeffrey Rietveld, but doesn't look like it unless he gets into the DRS zone. Then he's actually closing that gap. And on the previous shot, we saw Dennis Jordan right behind the John Lazy esports driver that is Jordi Swears. And it's interesting to see that the gap in terms of lap times isn't huge. And even if it is, it's not easy to pass on this track. And that's exactly what you pointed out, Lewis, in the beginning of our broadcast here. Because otherwise, Dennis Jordan, when we normally talk about a GT race, would be at least, if damage is okay, somewhere around top 15 by now.
Yeah, I think more so for Jordan. Obviously, the car itself is not damaged. Because when he spun out,
he just spun out.
Away, yeah, he didn't receive a hit. His tyres, however, a slide. I mean, you're dragging them across an abrasive surface, being the tarmac of the track, and realistically speaking, your tyres, they're not going to have a good day after that. I mean, whether you've locked them up or not, whether you've just slid on them, and they're going to lose so much percent of grip. As here we go, Juri Tolman. That one's surely not going to work, as the outside drive from Risto Cap is enough to keep him ahead, but the cutback, switchback manoeuvre from Juri Tolman almost opened up the door for Marcel Czincik as well to come through. Still no move, Risto Capet for R8G Esports at the head of this train. I'm surprised that no one else is able to drag themselves past, but that's just the slipstream train here. You know, everyone's just sort of stuck in exactly the same boat.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how long Risto Capet can hold on to this. And as you said, they got the slipstream, but slipstream isn't overly crazy, even with DRS. And the only big advantage I see is that they are 2 drivers. So that means Juri Tolman doesn't have to worry too much about who's behind him when he's going for an attack, because it is a teammate. So that's still okay. And on the other hand, as I said previously, it makes it way harder for Risto Capet, because if he's opening the door like this, then maybe Czincik will slip through as well. That was down in turn 1. We see the dip there on the inside. You really drop that car hard onto the floor, onto your front wing. And luckily, no damage had just yet. And Risto Capet was able to go around the outside and being on the inside for the entry into the AMG sector. And that means he's still ahead and still in 10th.
But let's see what Yuri Toma could do this time. He's closer, running out of the final corner, running down into T1. I think there might be another dive, but cool as you like, Risto Capit just leaving it on the outside, ready for the move to happen. And again, holding firm, a little bit of side-by-side in the background as Mohamed Patel and I think it was Martin Stefanko were going for a switch of positions, but they ended up holding 15th and 16th the same way they were entering the fight. It's just so difficult to complete a move. To get alongside isn't necessarily the most complicated scenario. It's just getting past, especially against Risto Capit, one of the coolest customers you can come up against in this kind of racing. To watching that replay, and I absolutely love this, because if you watch his reaction to Yuri Toma diving down the inside, does he panic? Does he try and dart back across to the inside? No. He just does what he's doing. He just holds it around the outside. He knows where the grip is. He knows where his pace is. There's no need to panic, and that's why he's still in 10th spot.
Yeah, he did very, very well. I mean, he did not move away from his line at all, which gave him that speed to take back his position, but he will feel that pressure a little bit longer, I would say, as they approach the Vidal chicane. 36 minutes still to go, and he's not getting away at all. The only thing that might save him now is the pit stops coming up that could then shuffle the grid once again and maybe give Risto Capit a bit more room to breathe.
Getting the vibe from a little bit of information that Risto Capit's going to be going a little bit further in this race than some others. Obviously, having the choice of how much fuel you start on and coming into the pit lane to do a little bit of refueling. Obviously, the more fuel you start the race on, the less fuel you have to put into the car a little bit later on, as Liam Deval was into the pit lane, also just made a move on Kasper Stoltz. Is it all right? It's the line? Yeah, it's okay. I was a little bit concerned there, considering if you remember back to the previous round at Silverstone, watching Jeffrey Rietveld coming into the pit lane, slowed it down, got down below pit lane speed limit, accelerated, didn't have the pit limit on. That was heartbreaking to see, especially as we had it in the typical Ruben Correa Alves slow-mo. Yeah, right.
Had to live through every single kph on that speedometer when it happened. Knock on wood that it won't happen today again. 3.1 seconds in between Bonnerhaus and Jeffrey Rietveld. So he is getting away. He treated his tires very, very well. Looking at the performance he's getting out of them right now, and I just don't see it happening. Bonnerhaus is an absolutely powerhouse, because I know that you really like to play around with his name as well.
Of course, he does.
So I will do it now. And I just don't see Red Bull stopping him today, or just like the previous races, but he would still claim the team lead.
Bianca Lilla and Pajic, by the way, coming into a bit of contact and strife for 6th position. They did bash quite a bit there, running into turn 2. This is for 6th place Musto GD Esports against Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports team. We're riding on board with Kevin Siggy right now. There is Bianca Lilla. Bianca Lilla is one who I actually think might well be going on a two-stop strategy, although considering that we're about halfway through the race, I'm actually going to put a doubt onto that one. It was more just down how hard he was pushing. It's looking like a fantastic drive for Musto, but we'll take another look at it. And I only caught this out of the corner of my eye, Rene. That is a proper send down into turn 1. Managed to hook it up. There's a little bit of contact here as they're just pushing so hard.
Yeah, I mean, it was a real send. If there is an Alpha 2 video that fits the sended meme, then basically this one, this highlight should be in it. But I would still say it was on the edge. Like he didn't already bump into the other car. He was just very late, and I'm absolutely sure that the tires were not pleased by how they felt going into turn 1, while we see Michi Hoyer trying to find a new line through the Vidal chicane. I wouldn't try that, by the way. Many drivers didn't realize and had to find out that this is not really working. Luckily, he stayed on the track, but he's losing ground. Still in 8th, and Jakub Brzezinski is a bit further down.
That, by the way, was Jan Grankvist coming out of pit lane and into the pit lane. Speaking of which, Mohamed Patel bailing from that train, diving his way down into pit lane for BS competition. Currently on the soft tyres. What tyres are going to be going on? This is onto the medium, so the way it works, it's, from memory, white sidewall that we have here, or more of a grey. That is your soft compound tyre. A yellow sidewall is the medium compound tyre, and a green sidewall is the hard compound tyre, and then blue for wet. We've not unfortunately seen wet yet. Love to see some rain. We need some rain at some point this season to just see how these cars race in the wet weather conditions. But so that's how it is. Switching onto the mediums, and a reminder, they have to switch compounds during this race. They cannot just run on one compound and then switch onto the exact same variant compound. That's what we've had for the previous 2 rounds, where drivers have run soft or soft for Bunner House and Rietveld and the like in the previous round. But that extra spice. Now, this is interesting for Patel. Is he able to set some decent lap times straight out of the box and try and jump members of this train? And are members of this train going to dive into pit lane to try and cover Mohamed Patel off?
I would say we're probably getting into the window now where you could get rid of the softs and get onto a medium. On the other hand, there was no one out there so far that really had success on the medium. So maybe we see people even overstaying on the tires just because they're so afraid of switching onto the mediums and realizing there was just a bit more performance left on those soft ones.
It's kind of like you want to save a little bit. That, by the way, is a classic. Danny Kish, by the way, into pit lane. The classic Jerne Simoncic move is to just, you're cruising. You're saving tyres for the moment you need it, and then just coming into the pit lane sequence, bam, there's my best lap time. Another one, and then I pit. I come onto the mediums. I come out ahead of you. I've gone for the overcut. He's done that so many times to the greatest effect. Of course, at this point, when they come into the pit lane with refueling and such, it's not the same as it is in in Formula 1 and the likes, where you come in, you switch tyres, and you're on the same fuel tank because there's no refueling. So you're effectively on better grip on a lighter car. Whereas with the refueling that we have, you come into the pit lane, you are going onto fresh tyres, yes, but you're going onto fresh tyres with a potentially heavier car than some of the other ones left out on track at the moment. And that aspect does mean that some things can be a little bit more complicated. We can see undercuts, we can also see overcuts. It does work both ways, and I absolutely love that. It's that extra spice. It's why you need a race engineer.
It is a team effort, not just the 2 drivers that we always see on camera here and on the track, but also the rest of their team. While Manuel Biancolida from Mr. GT Esports comes into the pits. Looked like he found the limiter. That's a good start, I would say, to his pit stop. And now just quickly needs new tires. Oh, that was a long stand on them. We see that switching from white to yellow as he gets the mediums onto the car, and then with a full tank of fuel, he's launching once again. There is Yuri Tillman coming in. Pedal for 15th, all alone. Obviously, as he turns in, there's no one around him. But Dennis Jordan stayed out, while Alan Turzic also came in.
Oh, that's tight in the box. That's going to block the Varga guys in, and having to reverse is Yuri Toman. What a terrible round for Varga Sim Racing. Poor qualifying, and then getting blocked in a little bit in pit lane. Just cost him a little bit of time, but considering they're in that train, that is a kind of a disaster for Yuri Toman. Mohamed Patel, by the way, ahead of Nuno Pinto, ahead of Danny Kish, who is out of the pit lane. Yuri Toman has lost out to Patel, has lost out to Danny Kish in all of that. And Liam Duval, by the way, who's also tipped off his pit lane, but I think that was a bit earlier in the race. I think he's got to come in once more at some point as we ride back on board with Alex Siebel. It's where things are getting a bit interesting. Like you say, you don't want to come into the pit lane and then lose time in that pit stop by being blocked in. That's why you want to come in by yourself. Bonner House to the pit lane. Jeffrey Rietveld also. Kevin Siggy assumes the race lead here at the Nürburgring. Erhan Janowski, Jerne Simoncic, all this like staying out. Jeffrey Rietveld and Bonner House and Michi Hoyer all in.
And that will be an interesting swap now, and we see how long Kevin Siggy can stay out. And by the way, since you said there could be a bit of rivalry between the broadcast for the Formula Pro Series and the broadcast for the GT Pro Series, we just saw how you actually exit a pit box while being blocked without losing your rear wing, as we have seen last week in Monza. That did not work out with one of the GT drivers who lost his rear wing there. Well, we get a replay of Alan Turzic against Alex Siebel, I would say. No, it could be Dennis Jordan, actually. And then Turzic had to make another loss, basically, to get into the pit lane and not running in. Oh, look at that. That was really, really tight. I mean, he got lucky that there was probably no damage at all. And as I said, at least there's still a rear wing, because without a rear wing, it would be a completely different race.
Well, I can't remember who it was. It was Risto Capet and someone else, and it was Risto Capet who popped the rear wing off.
Yeah, he accelerated out of the pit box.
And slid, yeah.
Yeah, and was basically drifting it slightly, and that was just too much. Like, the angle was totally fine. There was enough space, but with the rear stepping out just like half a meter, basically, while Kevin Siggy comes in. Wow, he really ruins the tires when going into the pits, making sure that they do not look good. But managed, and now he should also get mediums. Yes, he does. See the beautiful Goodyear logo fitting the Goodyear corner, which previously was the Dunlop corner.
Where's he going to come out in comparison to Bono, though, who's stuck in traffic here with Risto Cap? I think Bono's going to be out way ahead, but also Jeffrey Rietveld's going to be pretty tight there with Kevin Siggy. Rietveld's just come through now. There we go. Firing through shot. By the way, the tyre texture, of course, it's one of those things that's kind of constantly changing and evolving and being utilised. The tyre texture does change now. Whilst we're jumping from car to car, it's a little bit more all over the place. But that if you're driving the car by yourself, this is a fantastic feature, by the way. If you're driving the car by yourself, it's you, the car, etc. The more you wear your tyres, the more worn they look. And that sounds like such a, well, yeah, of course. But it's some things which are overlooked. And it's one thing that we only pointed out in Silverstone, thinking, God, those tyres, that texture looks absolutely fantastic on tyre. It's because they were worn. They were really, really worn. But boy, did it look good.
Yeah, we saw similar there with the cockpit shot of Kevin Siggy, whose tyres are not brand new, that's for sure, as he's still out there and didn't have a pit stop. I mean, he had a pit stop now, but he didn't have it previously. Risto Capet still defending, or again defending, this time against Bono House, who already had his pit stop. Nijovski coming in, that's the second RHE Esports car. His teammates still trying to hold up Bono House and Jan van der Heide, but he will turn into the pits now. Yep, he does. So 25 minutes still to go, so he will probably... wait, he was on soft, so he has to go onto the mediums.
Yeah. Let's see if Jan van der Heide goes for a move here on Haas. Surely not. This is not for position. Jan van der Heide just trying to get up there in the standings to make things look good for the team at the moment, as the pit lane sequence is in full effect. Jan van der Heide, Martin Stefanko not for position, as we're seeing Dennis Jordan and Jordi Veers, Risto Capet all in the pit lane. Jeffrey Rietveld with a couple of cars between himself and race leader Bono House back out in front on lap 24, past the halfway point of the race. There's the two red line contingent. Pajic has lost out a little bit of time, not necessarily too much, but obviously is now confirmed to be behind Manuel Bianchi. We saw that battle being close, and that's important for the championship fight, because Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports, that are topping the standings at the moment on 704 points. If things continue on the way they're going, if realistically, what I'm saying there is that if Pajic is going to be, I think, about 6th or 7th, House wins, Rietveld and Siggy second and third. The championship, I think, will swing the way of Redline by maybe a single point, although never trust the commentator's maths. But so tight is this championship right now. It's on a knife's edge, even though we're halfway through the season. I love talking about championship, though. You know me.
Which is totally fine. I mean, it is a great championship. It will be very, very close going into round 4 for us now, and it will be even closer going into round 6. I'm absolutely sure about that when we head over to the final to Monza in Italy. Kevin Siggy now once again behind Jeffrey Rietveld. I mean, he should be so used to this by now. You gave us his previous positions that have been behind his teammate as well, and it seems to be comfortable for him. While we see a Williams Esports car in the pits, getting mediums on that is Stefanko, who loses out here against Jan van der Heide. I'm diving down into turn 1. But as you said, Pajic behind Bianco Lila, and that is similar to Spader previously. That also gives a chance now to Michi Hoyer to maybe take down the second Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports. By the way, the team winning the prize for the longest team name in the Alpha 2 Pro Series, I think. It is crazy, right? Every single time I say it, I'm like, did I miss anything? Just imagine they would have a sponsor in this as well.
Virtual drivers
they do.
Racing. That's a long one as well.
They could. Oh, that will be a great combination. Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports powered by, and then
virtual drivers, but yeah, no, that would be
Yeah.
Allied Racing esports powered by TCS off. That was a good one back in the day. Obviously, they're now Volante these days and taking part all over the basis of racing. By the way, that battle for the top 10, Risto Cav has actually lost out as Jan von der Heide out of the pit lane. That's what I awed about. Just out. When I mean just, I mean it was a tiny margin between the German and the Estonian as Risto Capit drops down into 11th position outside of the top 10. I'm wisely informed it might apparently be a disaster for Scotland, but I don't know what Aidan Millward was on about back in GT Pro. But, each to their own. That's what happened to Risto Capit, and now down to 11th spot. And once again, under pressure from Fargo. This time, it's not Yuri Toman, it's Marcel Cinchik. Yuri Toman is down in 18th behind Dennis Jordan after the dramas on lap 1. This is how close it was between Jan von der Heide and Risto Capit. As tight as you like, and Risto Capit just not able to get there. That might be a bit of a huff from Capit.
That must feel so bad. You're coming down into turn 1, start finish straight. You're really quick. You think, okay, the guy out of the box should be a bit slower, right? He's still on cold tires and all that. And then you realize that you definitely lost that position in the pit battle. And now Risto Capit has to defend once again. Bianca Lila, he's in front of Page. Talked about that before. And then it's Michi Hoyer a bit further back, and Jakub Brzezinski closing this little group, I would say. So depending on Manuel Biancolila's pace now, they might come a bit closer together once again, because for now I would say Page probably the quicker driver on the track.
Yeah, and that was deep from Biancalilla through the Schumacher S, and Page has come through. There's contact between them, chop across the nose and through the middle. Birthday boy, there's your present, up to P6, Sonny Jim. Nice move. We'll have to take a look at that again. I don't know if necessarily Page was far enough alongside, but it all started with the mistake running through the Schumacher S from Manuel Biancalilla, just a little bit too deep, and Page picked up the pieces, and then even more so Michi Hoyer.
Oh, burst boys. What you gonna do? What you gonna do if they come for you? 5th and 6th now. I mean, that is great. Although I didn't really want to see Page and Manuel Biancalilla running together like they just did, but that was a very tough call there. Both drivers really tried to send it in there, and obviously Page had a great drive, as we saw from the rear camera, with Stefanko now trying it onto Alex Siebel on the outside into turn 1. There's still Cinchik in front, so they both have to make sure that they are quick enough on the brakes, but it seems like Stefanko has the upper end on the inside. Alex Siebel still trying to defend around the outside, but the Williams Esports driver, he will get through, maybe. He does so, and with that slots in right behind Cinchik, and on the hunt for more points here for Williams Esports.
Super move there from Stefanko. Let's take a look once again then at this incident between Page. You can see there Biancalilla a little bit too deep, going back to the inside, committing on the brakes. I mean that's a hard one to call. I think it's just Page just isn't really there. I think there's maybe just enough room given by Biancalilla, but that one's a pretty hard call, and that is why it's not our job. Thank you for that.
Yeah, we're definitely not the race marshals nor the race director, but it was a tough one. I would certainly two things. On one side, Page clearly showed his intent to be on the inside, right? And he was a ton quicker on the straight. But in that moment where there was the contact, Page wasn't really in the position on the inside to claim that corner. We know the rulebook, I think, for Formula Pro says, as long as you're alongside the rear tire, the front-running car needs to make sure that you survive this. But yeah, I'm not even sure if he was there. It's just from the straight, it looked way stronger for Page, and then in the corner, he looked further down, to be honest.
It's kind of one of those things where, as there we go around the outside, that's a superb move from Stefanko, trying to make one up once again. Might be able to make a couple of moves in a couple of laps. Don't know where this pace has come from for Williams Esports, but on the rear end of Marcel Cinchik trying to work it through, and that looked like a really, really good attempt, but no way to pass, and still holding firm at the moment, Marcel Cinchik against Stefanko. But yeah, with Page, that's the example of if you're going to go for a move, you've got to commit to it. You've got to go for it. You have to absolutely send it. And it was kind of one of those ones, he dived to the inside, he looked, he committed, and then went, oh no, this isn't going to work. The moment that you hesitate like that is the moment that an incident happens. You have to commit to what you're doing. If it was fully alongside, might be talking about a very different story here, but at least for my money, that looked pretty much a slam dunk to be on Payic's shoulders, which when they're fighting for the championship, that could be a disaster, because if that's a 10-second time penalty or something in that vein, that'll be huge. Michi Hoyer about to lose a position, gained a couple of lap ago, and Jakub Brzezinski on return to Formula Pro, diving it to the inside at turn 1 and trying to make the move stick as we cut back to, there is Brzezinski.
Yeah, kind of interesting to see the Williams esports cars all of a sudden being super quick, while I can see your face being totally confused of what kind of can change you just got there. It was really good. I mean, we had Michi Hoyer all the time on the overlay and on his webcam, the cockpit real cam, kind of. But yeah, the Williams car by now is all of a sudden super quick. No matter if it's on Stefanko or Brzezinski, that was Brzezinski's move into turn 1, obviously using a bit of DRS help and dropping it down. And through he goes on Michi Hoyer, who couldn't really do a lot there to defend that. But I'm as surprised as you are in terms of where this pace is all of a sudden coming from on those Williams esports cars.
Do you know what I think it is? I think this is drivers that have practiced a lot on the medium compound. Everyone obviously practices on the soft, of course you do, it's what you're used to. But this seems like a team that has really honed in on making those medium tyres work. And right now, Williams Esports are on a one-way charge up the order. It's been a fantastic one. I don't think Brzezinski can close down on Jerne Simoncic, but either way, did see the shake of the head from Michi Hoyer, obviously being a little bit frustrated to drop a position, but still well within the top 10 and looking like Burst Esports are having their best round of the season thus far. Marcel Cinčić under pressure from Martin Stefanko. Of course, the Williams Esports contingent, they've had 3 drivers. We've had 3 rounds, and each of the drivers has done 2 rounds apiece. Stefanko doing round 2 and round 3, Petr Bernák doing round 1 and round 2, and Brzezinski doing round 1 and round 3 that we're presently doing. I wonder if they're going to change it up in the next round. All competent drivers, although no disrespect to Petr Bernák. At the moment, Martin Stefanko and Jakub Brzezinski seem to have control of this car at the moment. They seem to understand it. That said, I do know that Petr Bernák does go quite well around circuits like Zandvoort, so maybe we'll see him return.
And the season isn't over just yet, so not all stories are written. Yuri Tillman on Daniel Kish, and it seems like the Varga Sim Racing driver is a tad quicker, but that exit was a bit sketchy there. Osteria once again not getting all the traction out of those medium tyres. We now see it, those yellow sidewalls on our broadcast cam. By the way, I saw in the chat a lot earlier now today, someone asking if that's actually the cockpit perspective they're racing from. No. Welcome to Proper Sim Racing. All of them are in the real cockpit cams, so driver's eye view, while we obviously got the TV and broadcast cams that sit a bit higher and allowing us to see a bit better and then judge their driving and their diving.
Look at that dive from Yuri Toman around the outside. A little bit of contact there. That wasn't so pleasant from Danny Kish, the Hungarian, just making a little bit of contact on Toman. That one might not be viewed too well. This looks like it's going to be fairly sorted, especially with that snap from Danny Kish. Surely Yuri Toman is going to pass here. Got the outside once again on the run down into Yokohama. Got to make it stick around the outside. Is there going to be contact again? Yes, there is. That one looked a bit more like Yuri Toman was trying to cut it back in for a switch back and the run into AMG. The 2 laps in a row then making contact at turn 1. Certainly not ideal, but it's kind of one of those things, isn't it, where you're racing so hard to make contact once. It's so easy to do it again and again and again. It's what we saw a bit last round, to be perfectly honest.
Let's see, we still got 13 minutes and 14 seconds. And Bonnerhaus, once again, after the pit stops and everyone went through them, is the leader, 3.2 seconds in front of Kevin Siggy, with Jeffrey Rietveld now being in 3rd. And see if they might even switch positions, because Rietveld should be higher in the driver's standings. No, not after his penalty, right?
Yeah.
He will not be in front of Kevin Siggy, as Kevin Siggy is currently 2nd in the Drivers' Championship, and then 3rd is Ernie Jovski. Jovski is currently 4th, so he will remain there, because our 4th on the standings is Cinčić, and then 5th is Yuri Toman already. So the Varga sim racing drivers have to climb a few more positions to remain where they had been after the Silverstone race.
Here's DJ on the rear end and attacking Mohammed Patel at the moment. 15th spot, big defence there, proactive from Mohammed Patel. You can say that. Dennis Jordan, by the way, for Dennis Jordan, Alex Siebel, and for Yuri Kansdorp, who's not racing in this championship, obviously. This was the first round that they drove at this circuit last season in GT Pro, when it was season 3 of GT Pro. Their debut for Red Bull Racing Esports. After that, all that contract was signed, they moved over. The team run by G2 Esports, Dennis Lind, running things behind the scenes and keeping a very close eye on things. It's been doing very well recently, by the way, in British GT and such, but we won't go into that too much. It was their first round. This will be a bit of a disappointing homecoming in more than one way for Dennis Jordan, unfortunately, but maybe trying to just resolve that by grabbing as many points as he can. 14th and 15th for Red Bull Racing Esports, not the results they would have wanted, but at least it would be some more fairly okay point scores that keeps them out of relegation. That's got to be the goal for some of these teams now, just staying out of relegation.
Yeah, one of the teams that's definitely fighting to stay out is John Elise Esports Academy and the team Forcilla that we have on screen. So this kind of is the fight to survive. We all know Netflix said Drive to Survive, although I'm pretty sure that during COVID it was more Survive to Drive.
Yeah, right.
Luckily that worked out for everyone. Let's see. I mean, it is the mid of the season, and we already see a bit of setting up the final fights for the championship. It will be the same for the rest of the pack further down on the grid in terms of dropping out of the championship. And looking at points to grab today, I would say Dennis Jordan still has the chance to make it around Mohammed Patel, but he also has to be aware of that throwing away the car or doing any other mistake is not really an option.
Well, Siebel will want to get through on Stefanko, but Stefanko will want to get through on Chinchik, and Risto Capit's more than happy to sit at the front of the train, just letting everyone try and pass, but failing to do so. Clearly that car is an absolute bullet in a straight line. Speaking of R8G Esports, by the way, just going to focus a little bit further up the order, because Erhan Yovsky, he's doing very, very well at the moment, and I'm not, I'm not beating around the bush there. He is catching. That is Jeffrey Rietveld getting bigger and bigger. And lap times wise, of the top four, Erhan Yovsky for the last 3, 4, 5, 6 laps has been the fastest of all of the top four, even faster racing. Now I know that Bonnerhouse is in cruise mode right now. He's just put the limiter on and he's just like, I'm just going to drive around and see what happens. Under no threat, and we know what Bonnerhouse is like when he's in that position. Erhan Yovsky, though, has the chance to nick a podium here from Rietveld. And again, just consistently applying pressure in the championship chase. We know how good Erhan Yovsky is, the Macedonian, a fantastic driver, a 2-time GT Pro champion, now taking part in GT Challenge after a bit of a tumultuous drive in season 3. I don't know too much, don't worry. But now back into it in GT Challenge, winning, as would be expected, on debut in GT Challenge. But here, seeming to go from strength to strength, building up, getting better as the season progresses.
Yeah, definitely, and it helps to getting, I think, the experience in that make him faster, and see if can continue like that for the second half of the championship. And I wonder, you said Bonnerhouse probably in cruise mode. It's so unbelievable that there is someone on the grid that can go that pace while relaxing, knowing that whenever he needs to, he can just switch and then flip the switch, basically, and get back onto an absolute top pace again. And really, it's like kudos to Bonnerhouse. He can do that on every of those tracks.
When I first found out what sim racing was about 8 years ago, obviously this was at the in that vein, at the height of Bonnerhouse dominating the Formula Sim Racing World Championship between 2010 and 2014, including their first season when they moved on to rFactor 2. So he's got records of beating high-level drivers at basically wherever in sim racing. We know that skill, and this is peak Bono. Genuinely, this is like a real, I mean, obviously he's not lost any of his speed or talent, but this is like a proper throwback to how he was between 2010 and 2014. Just absolutely dominant and pitch perfect. For anyone who was just saying that, oh well, yeah, but they were driving around with that force, just cruising it, they were just doing the same thing over and over again for an hour and a half. Can't do that here. You've got to absolutely wrestle this car. And who's out front? It's Bunner House for the 3rd consecutive race. You can't tell me he is not a proper quality driver.
He definitely isn't. And look how calm he looks like, right? I mean, it's a bit like him reading a PDF document, probably the AGBs for whatever site he's currently registering. Maybe it's www.prodriver soon-to-be-racing-driver-hopefully.com. And yeah, that was not a side of that was a crazy lap. It was more like, oh, where's the rest of them?
Yeah,
I want to play.
I'm pretty sure Bunner House had a go in a Formula E car.
He did, yeah.
5 years ago, if I remember correctly.
After
the Vegas
the
E-race.
Formula E Vegas E-race, yes. And he definitely had a go. Lap times, if I remember correctly, have been good. Definitely not bad. He was struggling, I think, from the get-go out of the pits, though, with the forces, and then had to get used to it. And then make the best out of it. So definitely someone that can operate and race a real-life car. No problem at all. I mean, if I could sign him, I would do so. But yeah, he's still in sim, which I love. I think it's way more competitive than most of the real-life championships. But we also still wait for a driver, even in this championship, to really challenge him and to make it a tough fight for the win.
Wow, look at this battle. Speaking of tough fights, Risto Capit still with Chinchik behind Stefanko's pace since he's joined this group. We're speaking of the charging Williams, has joined this group and has been unable to do anything about it. Also, speaking of pace equalising, Erhan Yovski's lost about 7/10 the last couple of laps, and in that, just dropping off again off the rear of Jeffrey Rietveld. So I'm not necessarily sure much is going to happen there. Maybe just burning out his tyres, trying to close down, which obviously is very easy to do when you've got this much power to put down onto the road. Closing in on the rear end of this group. I mean, it's a little bit too far off the rear end, but I think Dennis Jordan, oh no, he's still not past Mohammed Patel. I thought he got past Patel but still awaiting that move. 5 minutes left in the race. There's not many opportunities for these drivers to get through.
Yeah, it's like everyone is sitting and waiting. At least that's how it looks like. But as I said, time is running out. So if they want to do something, talking about time is running out, that's what Jeffrey Rietveld is waiting for, because Yovski is getting ever so closely. And that was Nuno Pinto on the right side, getting lapped now by the RHA Esports driver and Team Redline. Yovski, looking at the time, I mean, we see he is really on the edge. I mean, that car is on the limit each and every time he comes out of a corner. But he's definitely closing that gap, and Kevin Sig is too far away to kind of help and cover for Jeffrey Rietveld.
By the way, just behind this, Dennis Jordan nearly made a move on Mohammed Patel. Bit of lap traffic as well behind in the form of Jan Grankvist, who is 26th and last, which does bring out an important note. No retirements so far, although now I'm going to knock on wood and hope that doesn't then immediately switch the old commentator's curse. At present, as you can see, tight battles up and down, but it's so hard to pass. It's more so just a pressure cooker. Whilst this isn't something that you can think of it as a little bit boring to watch, because it's just cars driving around. Don't think of it as just cars driving around. Imagine the pressure that all of these drivers are under. That is proper sweaty hands territory. This is Yovski. I think this might be a little bit of a mistake. A little bit of a slide too deep. Whoa, nearly threw everything away into the bin there.
Yeah, that would have been really sad, because Yovski is on a great pace right now, and I think he and we deserve to see him attacking Jeffrey Rietveld. Would make a great finish to this race. Patel still in defensive mode against Dennis Jordan, and that should be one of the Volks GR cars in the background. Is that a lapped car, though?
No, that's
Grankvist,
the Wolves GR Esports driver.
Let's see, the chat says already countdown to Com's Curse. Now that we said all cars are still in, Dennis Jordan around the outside on turn 1. That did not work on Mohammed Patel. He had to run way too wide there. The additional meters were too much for the Red Bull Racing Esports driver. Well, we get beautiful slow motion of what happened to Yovski, who was a bit too hot into that corner and a bit wide through the gravel, but he's still out there. He's still hunting down Jeffrey Rietveld, and he's close enough. So the question is, who breaks first? Will it be Jeffrey Rietveld and taken down by Yovski, or will it be Mohammed Patel and we see Dennis Jordan moving up?
Just going to say, by the way, it's nice to see a nice classic Ruben Carrera-Alves super slow-mo, because we've not had one so far this race. We've not had too many this season. We've had a couple nice catches at Silverstone down at Stowe, but always need a good couple of super slow-mo action. It's always nice to see fantastic camera angles from our broadcast director the last few seasons. So thank you again to Ruben Carrera-Alves taking us through all the action. House leading the way by 4 seconds. 3.5 clear is Kevin Siggy over Jeffrey Rietveld. Back on board with Pajic. And there we go for the dive. Bianca Lilla potentially dropping the position. This one looked a little cleaner than it was a few laps ago when they went side by side. And that time it is completed by Pajic.
Yeah, we were waiting for that move a long time now. I mean, both spun out previously, then they were still fighting, and now the second Mercedes AMG Petronas Esports driver is through. So Pajic wins another position. This is a replay of Pajic against Bianca Lilla into turn 1. So we get that from the outside. Let's see. He did not even block it at all, and Pajic was already through before they headed for the apex. So that was an easy one. Let's see if Bianca Lilla might have a chance to get one more attack done before the end of the race with 1 minute 40 seconds still on the clock. And I'm always looking at the difference between Rietveld and Jovski. It should be 0.4 of a second right now.
It's close.
Yeah,
it's really close.
Oh, and he gets DRS. Let's see. So down into turn 1. But Rietveld had a really good run out of the Hyundai N curve. Look at that. Oh, he's way too hard on the brakes and kind of screwing around with his tires there. But luckily, he did not lose control.
You can be sure that Rietveld is feeling this pressure right now. By the way, when it comes to, we were watching Musto GD Esports there, they're last in the championships after some bad results, so I think that might be partially on the mind of Manuel Bianca Lilla. At present, as an FYI, we've got 50 seconds left on the clock. We are very aware of this. I do not believe this is the final lap of the race. I do believe we will get one more afterwards. I'm keeping my eye on Bunner House. He's got 40 seconds to get to the line. It's going to be very, very tight, mind. I'm pretty sure he might be able to slow down and call it on this lap with 30 seconds to go. Oh, I don't know. I think this might be the last lap. I think this might be Bunner House coming up towards a victory. 20 seconds. It's going to be as tight as you like. We'll keep our eye on it. 4 seconds clear of Kevin Siggy. Got plenty of time to play with. One more corner to go potentially. And it could be 2 Team Redline cars onto the podium. Bunner House out of the final corner. It is going to be one more lap. The victory celebration for the Dutchman. He's got another one.
Yeah, it's really sending his teammate out for another one, and I think that could have been something to avoid because we don't know if Bianca Lilla might launch an attack onto Pajic, although Pajic definitely dominated in the previous attack there. Stefanko and Alex Siebel. And we got Chinchik up front, and then Risto Capit on 11th. That's the RHE car in front, diving into the Vidal chicane first. Let's see if there's anything changing here, because Alex Siebel definitely very, very close to Martin Stefanko right now, and we saw the Williams Esports having great pace when they switched on the medium tires, but maybe Alex Siebel can have a go now, both with DRS though.
No, it's the last lap of the race. They'll take a look once again at the front right. You can see it just locking there, flat spot appearing. That is not what Jeffrey Rietveld wants, and he'll be under an awful lot of pressure from Jovski, although that gap has very much gone out at the moment. We're still looking at this battle between Risto Capit, Chinchik, Stefanko in tow, Siebel. The pace of the Williams has dropped off quite a bit because even Brzezinski's not been able to pull away, and Hoyer's actually back involved with this. Sorry, coming up towards the final sector though, our race leader, Mercedes AMG Petronas Esports. We called this over at Silverstone, and it very much looks like House is in control. Out of the final one, 3 from 3 for Mercedes AMG Petronas. Kevin Siggy, Jeffrey Rietveld, 2nd and 3rd as we refocus on the battle for Risto Capit. Back up to Bunner House. Another race victory, another good points effort. This time, though, it is from pole position, and things just seem to be going from strength to strength. I know it can all fall apart very, very quickly, but how can you touch a guy that is that fast?
And he's also now breaking the rules of you can only win a Formula Pro race if you're starting second. As Bonnehaus now won from pole position and did what Jeffrey Riedfeld wasn't able to do the previous 2 races. Stefanko still looking at Chinchik, but there will be no chance for him to make a move. That means he comes across the line as 13th, Captain 11th, Chinchik in 12th, and Alex Siebel, the Red Bull Racing Esports car that just shot by in 14th. And if we now look at the tower, that also means that Team Redline will definitely be leading the championship coming out of Nürburgring. Bonnehaus doing his best, being the dominant driver, but not enough to have his team leading the championship if Pajic is not delivering. Is that the Mercedes way now, looking for a second driver that can hold up to what Bonnehaus is firing out there? As he will definitely need some support to win this championship in terms of team championship. There's no other choice for him. He can't do better than winning 303.
Yeah, House is doing exactly what he can do. He has won all 3 races of the season. The driver standings, things are pulling away, but our focus in Formula Pro is obviously more so down towards the team standings. And Team Redline there with a 2nd and 3rd, they are going to be picking up some very, very healthy points indeed, as we would expect. And that's just how things go. That's how this championship goes. It's about consistency, it's about momentum, and it's just about, again, delivering every single time. And it's no disrespect to Pajic, who is a quality driver in his own right, taking part in various amounts of sim racing all over the place, whether it's in GTs or here in open wheelers as well. Is a driver that knows how to deliver, that knows how to bring results home. Unfortunately here, the issue back at Spa, not so great pace here, a bit of instant getting involved in it. Redline seemed to once again, as we saw at round 1, looking like the favourites.
Yeah, they're definitely the ones with the best car, I would say, in terms of setup, because once again we saw Team Redline a bit on the aggressive side. That car was moving way more than Pajic or Bonnehaus had on their car, so wondering if they really run the same setup or if there's a bigger difference between Redline and the Mercedes-AMG Petronas car, because in the beginning we obviously thought they're probably on the same setup or a very similar one, but that's not really what we see on the track. And I wonder if it now changes the balance a bit as Redline is back in control in terms of the team championship, and Bonnehaus really knowing that there's not much more he can do. He started, he won, so it's all on Pajic now to make it happen for Mercedes-AMG Petronas going into the next race.
I mean, look, at the moment, there's not much more that, like you say, Bono can do. He's got a job at hand, and he is delivering every single time. And that's just how it goes. When the margins are so tight, though, it's so quick for it to fall apart, like I've said before. And that goes into the Teams Championship as well, where there's so much prize money up for grabs. And with Pajic's result here, with Pajic's result in the previous back at Spa, sure, he did fine last round, but even then dropped down through the order. Rietveld's issues at Silverstone could come back to haunt the team, though. Let's be real, though. It was high pressure in the team standings between Redline, Mercedes-AMG, and of course Varga, that was sat in 3rd spot. But they didn't have a good day. They didn't capitalise on any of the issues, and they made issues for themselves, and no top 10s for them. They are going to plummet down the order. I mean, look at Burst now. Surely they'll pick up a good few pieces as well.
They had the race that Varga Sim Racing wanted to have in Nürburgring, I would say, although it wasn't catastrophic compared to some of the races we just had where teams were really struggling, but just not enough to really play among the big boys now in the championship. If Varga wants to have a shot at least a podium in the teams championship, then they need to be better than that. And it just shows them how crazy this championship is in terms of teams that have a chance. I mean, Red Bull Racing Esports, right? That's a good team. Their lineup is really, really strong. They are not on the top 3. They're not on the top 4, right? So it really shows that every single race and every single lap count, and it will probably go down to most positions being decided by one drop-off position in one of these races.
I mean, coming into the season, perfectly honest, I knew that Redline were going to be involved in it, but we were more expecting Burst as well to be up there, more expecting Red Bull to be up there, and now we're finally seeing it. Race results from the Nürburgring, then almost complete domination from Bonnehaus at the top of the field, with Siggy up to 2nd position, Jeffrey Rietfeld from 2nd down into 3rd, but at least we still get 2 Team Redline drivers on the podium. Jovski was applying pressure at the final moments of the race, with Jone Simoncic best result of the season in 5th. Jakob Brzezinski, the rise of the Williams to 6th. Michi Hoyer, birthday boy, 7th position for him. And Marco Pajic dropping down the order, getting involved in an instant with Manuel Biancalilla, who come across the line 8th and 9th. Jan van der Heide, another top 10 for Rocket Sim Sports, as they continue their little trend just to keep them outside of it. Great strategy from them just to jump the train that Risto Capit was manning. Marcel Chinchik ahead of Yuri Toman, who was having issues. His teammate Martin Stefanko directly in tow behind. Of course, insanely tight between them, but the 13 drivers up there, we have another 13 to go through. Alex Siebel, not a good race for Red Bull Racing Esports. Mohamed Patel and Dennis Jordan down the order. Dennis Jordan, disaster on lap 1. Fantastic qualifying in 6th spot, but I'm sure 16th is not what they would have wanted. Danny Kish, 17th, and Yuri Toman, the disaster continued for Varga in 18th spot. Jordis Viers, Nalan Terzic up to 19th and 20th. And Nuno Pinto, Leon Duval, Valeriano, Gianmarco Viducci, Casper Stolzer, and Jan Grankvist on debut down in 26th spot. But importantly, didn't say it in the race, everyone finished. No retirements.
That is true. And looking at the top 15, it was actually Pajic with the worst drop by 3 positions. I kind of like these arrows, right? Because looking at Bonner House, like must have been in a horrible race. Everyone around him had a green arrow, and he only had a yellow one.
Yeah, 0.
Disappointing, I would say.
Terrible.
Well, let's look at the team standings. Obviously, in Mercedes AMG Petronas Esports. Wait, they're still leading.
Yeah, I think that
kind of surprises me.
The win is worth 5 more points than the position behind, and then behind that it's 2-2-2, and then quite a few ones in a
that's
different
still
position.
the same 4 points that they had in between them before. So nothing lost.
Just consistency.
We gave Pajic a hard time for absolutely nothing because they didn't lost.
It's just like I say, it's the consistency of Bunner House just picking up the wins. Like I say, doing what he needs to do. He's hoovering up the points at the front, but I'm kind of happy for this in the sense that it's this tight. I thought, like I say, I'm kind of with you. I thought Redline were going to close up. But this is why rule number 1 of watching broadcast stuff: never trust a commentator's maths.
Yeah, that's it. And since we can see that we head to Indianapolis next. We changed the rules already to have different compounds. So do we get different tire manufacturers before going to Indianapolis to maybe have a race
and tires
and a race start that reminds us of the good old times when Indianapolis was hosting a race with not that many starters. Wasn't that 2005?
Yeah, 2005.
Yeah. That's a long time ago already. If you're now wondering if that was in black and white and if color TV was already a thing back then, yes. Don't worry. Everyone getting older.
Wasn't Lorraine Carter-Cahan like 4th in that, obviously of 6th? Either way, completely different time to think of it. We'll focus on where we are. We're halfway through the championship now. We've got Indianapolis, we've got Zandvoort, we've got Monza to look forward to. Now, if there's a terrifying race to go to at the end of the season, Monza would be it. That run down to Red Filio. We saw the issues in GT Pro. I'm not going to say that we're going to get the same issues here, Rene, but really speaking, it's going to be a pretty hard task for them to stake. It's such a tight run down there. Indianapolis, kind of a similar stretch down into turn 1, only it's a bit wider. By bit wider, I mean it's quite a lot wider down at Indianapolis. But I'm expecting, once again, we're going to be talking of race starts being a really key factor. But now strategy as well.
Definitely. I mean, strategy will be interesting from all the teams out there. They learn with every race, right? It's the first season on the new cars, the first race with the new rules. So I'm pretty sure that we'll see different options in terms of strategy going forward. And as you said, Monza will be a hard track to head up for the grand finale. And Indianapolis is a bit wider, especially since there's no, really tight red. And immediately go left where there's only one line, basically. So Indianapolis will be a bit easier. But nevertheless, it's a track that so far, especially in rFactor 2, always provided great racing. It was used in the race events previously. It was used in the Pro Series on the GT side. So I can see great racing there once again. And if you are sitting at home now, it's like, wait, this one is over. It's already Monday evening once again, at least in Europe. And I want to see more of that. Then Friday will obviously return with the rFactor 2 Formula Challenge Series with all the teams and drivers that want to make the jump into the Pro Series that you just saw today. And you will see Aiden Millward not just in the chat, but also on the track. I think that's another big point White to watch the rFactor Challenge Series. Cameron Roger will commentate that one with me, and then the Monday after, time once again for the BMW M2 Sim Cup and the GT Pro Series GT Challenge then following on that Friday. So make sure that you keep these slots open in your schedule, I would say, to listen to the beautiful Lewis McLeod and all his statistics. I have to ask though, Lewis, did you fire all of them, or was there anything left and we just didn't have the right opportunity? Then now it's your chance.
No, I didn't have any more, but I've already thought, even on the fly here, I've already thought of a couple for Indianapolis.
Right.
I won't reveal too much, but I'm pretty sure there'll be a few stats that we can throw out there, particularly when it comes to wet races and GT Pro, because we'll have to wait and see if we get our first one over there. Fingers crossed.
Reaction.gg already trying to draft the next question for the community pool on Twitter, like what will Lewis McLeod come up with next week? Once again, I'm really sorry for me singing through the broadcast. There was absolutely no chance to get around this, just like there was no chance for Bianco Lila and Page to actually make that corner. And we will return on the 30th of August for the race in Indianapolis. Until then, thanks Lewis for joining me. My name is Rene Butler, and I see you guys there.